Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of Biden Numbers. It really is Biden Numbers today. That's as much politics as we're going to do. Because listen, though, I am sure everyone is fucking sick of it. Sick of sanctimonious, deluded Americans and having access to social media. Europeans know more about their own history. We're not going to get into it, guys. I promise. This is a safe space from the gibberish, and we're just going to talk about counterstrike and then whatever tangents we decide to go off on. Now, I'm going to
do, by the way, the classic, which is because I didn't remember the tweet until the show went live, and obviously it's too late to start banging away on keyboard. I'm just going to do my other favorite, which is I embed your tweet, which has the link in it, but then everyone who you have blocked, who I don't have blocked, goes, "What is the link though? What is it?" And then they just tell that story. So like, I know listen, it's childish, but I get a kick out of it in a way.
No, I do. I notice you have come around to my way of thinking about blocking people on
so many people. Mate.
Yeah, no, but it's good, isn't it? Because they go mad about it.
That's the thing. Yeah, people don't get this. The same people who say you're thin-skinned, they'll say it while essentially dining out years later on a story of you blocking them. Like, the real truth is this. If fans don't get it, this really is how it works. And just think about it for a second. If I have 200,000 followers and I block one guy, right? What are the odds I remember you even? I don't. As soon as you're blocked, you're gone forever. You're essentially Stalin memory hold. Meanwhile, you're telling that story years later. Guess which one has the person rent-free in their head?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a new trend going on. Because I said, you know, there are some people I respect, but just find their ignorance to certain topics. I just find it unpleasant to sort of expose myself to, you know, like, it's like, I don't get a great kick out of seeing very stupid opinions that have no basis in fact. And, you know, there's so much information you have to digest, but it's not like an out and out condemnation of them. So I don't want to block them. So what I do is I quietly unfollow and we'll just leave it there. I just no longer want to see your brain droppings, essentially, which is all Twitter really is. Yeah, right. I just don't want to see them, if that's okay with you. Not enough to block you, but just enough like I'm not going to actively seek them out. Well, now the new trend that what you're supposed to do is you then message the person who unfollowed you. And this has happened to me 5 times this week, no joke. All from verified.
You unfollowed, rather.
No, I unfollowed them, and they message me and say, "Can I get an essay on like why you unfollowed me, like an explanation?" And like I've been giving people both barrels, like click clack. I tell them nicely first. I don't think you want to hear it, and then if they go, "No, but please," right, here you go. Then you fucking moron. You're a moron. That's what it boils down to. And so that's a new trend. That's
you know
how much
about that, by the way, is I'll tell you who originated that trend. Like the first person I'm aware of. I don't know if you can verify this story on your end, mate.
Yeah,
that is a classic move that your old boy Slasher used to do. Because what would happen back in the days, I'm talking like 8 years ago now, right? When we were all in esports, it's even more when I didn't actually work with him, when I was just on other sites. It's the same thing. Like, I don't have a problem with, well, I do now, but I didn't back then. He was just a guy in the community. But what would happen is he'd post, usually about CS, which he obviously didn't watch, but he pretended he did, because he's one of those people who beggars belief that he watches 17 esports games and knows them all at an expert level. Like, by the way, as someone who basically put his whole life in like 3, it's pretty much impossible. Like, I'm not even that good at League of Legends now, mate. But whatever. By the by. So what he would do is he would post some like mad ignorant comment, like maybe it would be an American exceptionalism type one, like, wow, America doing semi-finals at this major is like bloody one of the best things that, you know. And obviously you'd read it, and if you're an expert, you'd just be like, I don't, like you say, I just don't want the pollution in my mind. So I'm not going to block. I'm not going to reply and be like, kill yourself, which, by the way, you used to be able to say on the internet. When it was the Wild Wild West.
Mate, so, I've had that said to me a lot today, funnily enough.
There we go.
Yeah, oh, it's back. Oh, trust me. It's strong uptake for that, by the way. Strong uptake for that.
Trending. So what I did is, anyway, was like you say, you just quietly unfollow the person. Now, if the person's a vaguely normal human being, like I couldn't tell you who's unfollowed me, which I have no idea. Like maybe years from now, I'll click on their profile and I'll see doesn't follow you or whatever. And I'll go, oh, weird. But then that'd be all I think about it. He must have had one of those bots back in the day that just tells you, oh, maybe he follows the activity tab. I don't know how you find this shit out. But he would, dude, 5 minutes later, there'd be like a Skype message like, bro, what's going on? And you'd be like, I don't have like an intervention every time I just don't follow you on Twitter. Like, I'm not, listen, again, This isn't even impolite. I'm just choosing not to follow. Like you say, I'm not blocking it. I'm not saying you deleted forever. I mean, he's blocked now, but that's by the by. You know, like, give me a break. I don't want to have this awkward discussion where we got like, the one that did it.
Yeah, the one that did it for me today was like someone was going like, you know, again, it's political, so sorry about this, guys. But like somebody like tweeted out like it was something along the lines of basically like step 1 complete. Now we must go after legitimate political figure who's won an election for treason. And I'm like, listen,
get me out. I know.
I'm just like I've got to uncouple myself from that because it just shows like this self-flagellation in like American sort of society right now, where it's like, like I say, like people who like dominatrix porn, they want their balls stamped on, you know, hurt me, fantasizing about fascists. It's like there's not there. I know, and it's like I can't get on board because I'm European, so our history, you know, you are insulting pretty much the rest of the world with these fantasies. Of course. So
you make a mockery of the premise, because the whole point is, think about it, right? You wouldn't behave in just a tweet type manner if fascism was on the rise. It's the same as like that joke people made about Trump, because it's so bang on, isn't it? It's like, what a shit fascist. The entire media is against him. People openly call for his death, mock him all the time, including unelected officials within his own government. Like, mate, I think you want to look at what fascists...
His own cabinet in some places.
Exactly. Like,
his own cabinet.
I don't know if you're aware, but like they sort of kill people when that happens. They don't tend to take it very well, Rich. You know, they can be quite sensitive, can fascists, believe it or not.
I'm writing an article about it because I thought like I'm going to, since I've made it to the summit of so many, because I'm a media student.
Dude, I can't believe that story you said on that other episode where like, obviously, if we'd have gone back in time 25 years and told you, you know, eventually esports becomes a springboard and you can actually write about politics. But then that mad story you said where they were just like, we won't pay you because there's no money in it. Like,
yeah.
So esports was it? It was esports. With that meme, it was esports after all. Always was.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm building up that site Glenn Greenwald's jumped across to, that Substack.
Yeah.
Then I know you must be looking at that. Yeah.
Mate, exactly. For people like me and you, where we have the profile and the publishing, basically, we just need people to be able to directly pay. That's the future. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if I'll have the profile by the end of today. My tweet was so upsetting, it made German news.
How is that possible?
I'm being talked about in Der Bild, one of the worst German news websites.
Is that just some trash fucking tabloid?
Yeah. It's like the Sun. Like, basically, right? It's like, Die Journalisten, Richard Lewis, like, because I said, like, someone was fake crying, and it really upset people, that did. Like, really upset people.
Of all the things people are saying over these days, that's the one that's got to everyone.
Yeah, it's unreal, but it's just there. Not everyone appreciated the tears. Die Journalisten, Richard Lewis. It's just there, mate.
Your esports stories, not the corruption you've unveiled. Multi-millionaire businessman. No, they'll never make the build. But tweet about fucking Van Jones or whatever. It's so shit, isn't it? It's so shit.
So I feel like that. What's that fucking drill joke, isn't it? Like where the tweet and only, you know, people who lack an imagination and aren't funny ever quote this cunt. But the one tweet that I actually think is funny of his is the one where he goes, keep yelling at me to shut up. It just makes my opinions worse.
That's like what my tweet philosophy used to be.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's not even ironic. It's like you can boo, boo. Exactly. I'll keep going. So I made international news today because my tweet was so bad, apparently. It's a great time to be alive. But anyway, so this is basically what I said in this thing. I said, culturally, America has become the child that wants to be the center of attention at another kid's birthday party. You know, like that's sort of where we're at right now with how everything that's going on over there. It's like, what's that? You're in like an Eastern European country that's got like unstable politics at the moment. What's that? There's a war between like Azerbaijan and Armenia or something going on.
You even see that on the fucking news,
no. Just fuck you.
I'll give everyone a little piece of info if they aren't aware. Right, if you actually know, we all love that band, System of a Down, right? I will say they are also in line with Rage Against the Machine, where when I didn't understand what the lyrics were about, I was loving those fucking bands. Got a little bit dark nowadays when I sort of know the references, Rich. It's not funny anymore that, you know, he's loading shotguns with his classmates or whatever, with fan on or whatever. Like, that suddenly isn't as cool as it seemed when I was 14. But here's the problem, right?
No, it's
if
not.
people don't know, that was a classic example of a band that modern politics ruined. Because essentially, if you know, like, I think it's the drummer or something is like a Trump supporter, and then the others, unsurprisingly, are mad against that. So famously, they were never, ever going to reform. So if you're wondering, that's weird. They put out a couple of tracks, story, what you're talking about. Yeah, it literally only took essentially like another genocide in their country for them to be like, probably should just rock on and do a couple of tracks now, boys. Like, that's
no, but there's people who don't even know why they came back.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
People were like messaging going
for 4 years going, well, this is the most important thing in the world. I've got to know what happened.
I know, like literally, people underneath replying, going like, "Yeah, stick it to Trump." Like, no, you fucking, it's not about that, you fucking morons. You want to cretins. You want to cretins.
That is so self-entitled. It's fucking insane. Like, well, he's talking against like corruption and government. Tell you what, he's bloody stuck those pubs, hasn't he? Take him down.
So basically, I'm gonna be I'm gonna keep doing political writing, and so that'll probably be the ruin of me. But as I was saying, as I've been to the summit of 2 professions now, you know, TV host, first ever from esports to be on American network TV, obviously the GOAT journalist, you know, it's all true, it's all codified now. I'm getting a lifetime achievement award. They can't ever take it back, no matter what bad tweets they find.
That's the best part, mate. Like, you know, that's what I actually realized is this. You might think in theory, and in a way it was shit. Like, I won my award when the esports awards was still fairly small. It was just growing, you know. What I've realized is this, Richard, is like, there'll be a couple of years from now where we're just not allowed to win them. So we had to get ours in early. And as you say, listen, no matter what they try and do, like Korean esports style, where they memory hole us, the photos are there. I've got the award. You will pry that from my cold dead hands. I did win it. And everyone that's a bullshit later that wins and in reality makes it more legit just amplifies what my win was worth. So you can't ever take it away from me. It's too late now. It's too late.
Stop the count.
Basically, yeah. Because, mate, that's it. That's the thing that I also can't ignore. The way you know this generation is utterly fucked on the internet is when every year we get nominated, there's always people who do those posts like, so now you can just bloody nominate someone who's blocked everyone on Twitter. It's like, what would that have to do with the fucking esports journalist of the year award?
I actually proposed best Twitter block as a category, you know, for the awards. We'll see if there's a strong uptake for that. But anyway, look, we're sucking each other's dicks as we often do, and just saying how great we are, and we promise no politics. So we're purging it now. We are purging it. It's a safe space, guys.
Some good shit went on though in the last week or so, though, mate. Did we have some good shit?
Yeah, tons of stuff. Well, we had Forza again going ham sandwich, which we'll get to.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, we didn't talk about it on the show yet.
We've actually had some international games to talk about and some interesting developments there, and you know, all sorts going on. Basically, the thing you want to talk about is BTN vindicated 3 times due to interviews, which we'll also talk about, because I totally prepared this show.
You said this before about the Flashpoint publicity angle. It's true. It's just, unfortunately, that is just our nature. Like, we use the Pitbull style of journalism where you latch on and then you just keep going, and the idea is you never let go. You just make a person sort of submit. But the problem I've noticed is with fans, with their shit attention span, their terrible understanding, the fact that they just skim read stuff or look at the headline, or they just assume they know what's going on because they saw a stream or a pro player did an interview. The real problem is, like, the way you do your written journalism is actually the most effective way. You got to hit them once with everything. And you got to have everything. Because I noticed this the other day. When you did that short video where you tied in Nicola Nyholm trying to make his own counterstrike to essentially what the master plan that we'd been pointing out all these years was. He wanted the teams, he wanted the league, then he wanted his own game. He just wanted everything. But the problem is, Rich, that came off the back of like 50 videos about Astralis, 50 videos about the minutiae. So actually that sort of went under the radar. Like, people were like, what's this all about? Like, it's like just a guy in esports wanted to own everything. Including the game. Like, no biggie, guys. You all hate Jeff Bezos, but it's cool that Nicola Ryan was just gonna be the god emperor of the whole fucking scene and just cast his shadow over the whole thing. Like, no biggie.
Astralis fans would have come round to understanding why it was bad round about the time he contractually compelled Astralis to play his version of Counter-Strike and nothing else, you know. They would have gotten bored then. But yeah, mate, it's like, no, that's always been my approach. I think when you're going for a really big story, because like I've seen it too many times, you know, that it's like, what people get fatigued with, they get narrative fatigue very quickly now, because 24-hour news cycle, social media, attention deficit. So what happens is you punch first. Cool. That used to mean you win. because you put someone on the defensive in the old media days, whatever went into the papers for a day or two before the response pretty much won out, narratively speaking, but not anymore. Now, if you punch, now it's the counter puncher that tends to win. So whoever goes second with, the fake apology, the fake DMs, oh, here's some proof I never did it. Good PR strategy these days, if you're ever accused of anything, is make like a giant 50-page document of absolute garbage that doesn't prove your innocence at all. But people will get like 5 pages in and go, he must be innocent, or he wouldn't have wrote this much, right? So, and then if you go third and go, no, but look, it's all lies, everyone on the internet goes, will you shut the fuck up? We're on to the next thing now.
Yeah.
Shut up, dickhead. So yeah, you have to collate everything and then fucking blah blah. So there is no comeback. The first punch must be a knockout punch, or you lose the fight. So yeah, that is any journalists out there. Surely none. I wouldn't recommend it's a profession you get into at all.
And not this type of journalism either.
Yeah,
stick to the cool shit that people love and give you awards for, not this.
Yeah. So yeah, just saying. Anyway, so yeah, loads of cool stuff to talk about. But let's do a shout out to the sponsors. .com, proud sponsors of this show for a long time now, and we love having them around. Great sponsor to work with. Just want to say, well, I got 2,000 of you and climbing here. You can go to CSGO YouTube channel. Make sure it's shocking the content they put out, and they only have like 22.5K followers. Like they are putting out content daily, talking to pro players, doing quizzes and all sorts with them, talking to people like Nico, who's going to feature heavily in this show. He's the new one. And yeah, just go follow them. And my Henry G interview has only been seen by like 7,000, 8,000 people. It's about Henry G becoming a GM and how he got the players, the Esatag deal. It's mad that more people haven't seen that. So go follow them there, and obviously go to .com/RLS to show them that you support this show. And of course, our VPN sponsor. Everyone's going to need a VPN, especially there's talk of lists being made.
Fucking hell.
You might want to get yourself a VPN, and I strongly recommend Nord. Go to nordvpn.com/RLS. You can also use ! NordVPN in the chat, and that will get you 70% off. It's a great product. Right, let's start. What do you want to do? Petty grievances and vindication first? Or...
I think so. I think we do the real CS.
I don't even know why I asked.
Oh, just because the problem is you want to get all the you want to hit the high point first, and then you cruise into the games.
Okay, fair.
And also, people aren't even going to believe this one because they probably know the preliminary parts of this. Again, it's one of those ones where there was all developing aspects where you had to read like the fucking Twitter replies. So I don't blame people if they don't know this whole one. But this Forza one is going to fucking blow your mind in the context of what we just went through.
Yeah, we'll get to the Forza one. Let's start with... Oh, no, actually, no, you're right, Duncan. I think that structurally that makes more sense. Let's do the Forza one. So there was Forza. We featured them on the show. For those who don't know, Forza are an up-and-coming Russian organization, a team that has competed internationally solidly in that Tier 2 space. They've had some scalps and some upsets against teams you wouldn't ordinarily expect them to win. And they were a thoroughly liked team and were sort of low-key representing the strength and depth of the CIS region ever since some of these great players that we always thought were going to ascend, have sort of like kind of fallen by the wayside or ended up in shitty mixed teams or ended up in contractual limbo because of the complicated nature of the CIS region. So they've been doing great work, and you're going to be able to see them in Flashpoint when that starts soon. But they have been a PR nightmare. On the previous shows, we basically showed you that they had hired Zona. You may remember him. He is the guy from Hard Legion, it was, that basically cheated the most during the coaching scandal.
400 rounds or something.
Over
insane.
400 rounds, he'd abused the bug, and he got a 36-month ban. Now, certain other orgs like Ents and Mad Lions decided to keep around their banned coaches, which we don't approve of either. We think there has to be a tangible punishment or penalty for breaking the rules. And it's not that I don't want them to, it's not that I want them to go hungry. I just don't want them around competitive Counter-Strike until they've served the e-sick ban's time. I think that's reasonable, I think when you start moving people sideways, it's bad optics. But anyway, Forza went out of their way to hire this guy after that. And said, not only is it not that big a deal to them, what he did, but that he's going to be in charge of developing their academy players. So, in other words, the biggest cheat in the fucking game is going to be training players how to cheat. Potentially, because clearly he's a man of dubious ethics. There's not.
He's also, as far as I know, has he ever issued a statement of remorse? I think he's just stayed silent, hasn't he?
No remorse, no contrition, and and so anyway, when this was called out by several personalities in the Counter-Strike space, myself included, what happened? Instead of saying, yeah, you have a point. They made such a big deal about announcing him in the first place, which was stupid PR. They then doubled down, said, you're all morons. Richard Lewis, you're not a journalist. And all sorts of stuff flooding
And
out.
just believe us, he's not going to ever interact with the main team honest, effectively.
There was also a weird tweet he did, which where he sort of intimated to Duncan, from the CEO, that if he saw him, they would have a real chat. Which, again, where me and Duncan are from, a real chat outside usually means you have a fucking dust-up away from prying eyes. So, no do-gooders can press charges.
If people don't know as well, because that was how I certainly read that, because it was very weird phrasing. Because what he said was, first of all, he tried bantering backwards and forwards. So when I tagged him first, he sort of said something like, I'll deal with it, Mad Lions. If you're needed, then I'll let you know. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
So then when I bantered him the second time, where I basically said, it's all scum or whatever, he essentially said something like, next time you tag me, we'll have a real chat. Now, I thought to myself, you have to be fair with people from other cultures. Maybe that, again, that's an idiom.
Languages,
maybe that's the bullet from Brazil or whatever, which they claim just sort of means that, we're going to make you live up to your words or some shit, But I asked people from Eastern Europe who are fluent in Russian, it is their language, and they said, oh, that is absolutely how you would read that. Like, similar to how apparently there was that idiom of go to the forest, which sort of means like, fuck off and die, effectively. Yeah. They're apparently saying like real chat like that. It does essentially mean like, well, there he's going to have a real chat with me, isn't he? Which is actually outrageous that a fucking CEO would say. Like, if people don't realize, Forza actually qualified through the open qualifier for Flashpoint. They're not actually like a founding team or a partner team. So, but I'll just say this. I purposely, because I saw he implied that, but he also, like a little bitch, just implied it and then didn't say anything else. I purposely put him to the test. And by the way, essentially checkmated this cunt by just tagging him again and saying, are you implying you will beat me up? Because here's the thing, right? Here's what an idiot like that didn't think through. It's the reason why, if you've ever been in a bar fight, you know that the guy doesn't tell you he's going to punch your head in before he punches your head in. That's the guy who doesn't want to fight. The guy who's going to punch you walks over aggressively and punches you. Like, the whole point is there's not a conversation because he's going to do it. So what this guy basically did was he had two options. Either say nothing when I ask him, which he did. So he's a bitch. He packed down and he's on with his life. Yeah, we all knew that. Or two, he'd have had to confirm, yes, I plan to beat you up. In which case, by the way, I actually would have had that team removed from Flashpoint. So at that point in time, like, you just can't be allowed to do that if you're going to be in the professional community. Like, you'll notice I have never, ever implied I would beat someone up, no matter what they've ever said to me.
No, of course not. Think of all the abuse we get on a daily basis,
Because there is just a line on that shit,
Yeah, of course, totally. And like I say, I couldn't believe he was doing it. I'm like, Flashpoint's a great accelerator pad for them. And it's as a CEO, what an awful position to put the players in, where potentially your conduct might get them removed from a league that incurs all these benefits and profiles. So yeah, very, very awful behavior. Now, with all of that said, you think at this point, how much worse can the PR get? Like, just fucking dial it the fuck down, simmer down, get on with Flashpoint League, maybe have a good performance there. And the community have got the memory of fucking goldfish anyway, so they'll all just forget about it and it'll all be okay. But no, Forza can't keep their shit together.
Twitter account can't stop tweeting, can it?
No, they cannot keep their shit together. So it emerged on Twitter, I want to say on the 1st of November, yes it was, by Peacemaker, a coach we've talked about many times on this show, but obviously someone who's with Mad Lions, currently rebuilding a team. And he put a tweet out that basically said what they were doing was they were doing practices with Go TV on in the background secretly without declaring it, so they could record your sort of new tactics that you were trying in scrims. Now, for those who've never played professionally, I have to tell you, you might think, well, what you're talking about, surely you record demos. Well, no. how it works is there is a gentleman's agreement across all professional teams that because of the nature of these practices and the fact you'll be trying out new things and new ideas, new boosts, new smokes, new flashes, whatever it is you've got in the locker for a tournament, you don't put Go TV on because that would enable a third party to basically record everyone's shit all of the time. So you play on Go TV servers off and you record your own player's point of view and disseminate information that way. It is an agreement across all of Counter-Strike, all top-tier Counter-Strike, that they do this. That's a separate debate about whether or not that's some weak-ass baby shit. I won't get into that. But
speaking of what the Valens guy was trying to bring up, where he just said everyone should release the demos, that was that murky territory. So there's no point getting in that. The point is, it is an unwritten rule.
And so this is like, you know, the sign stealing scandal, you know, Belichick essentially, like, you know, fucking filming people with the playbook and stuff. So this was a big deal, and they came out and they absolutely went wild. Again, no contrition. The coach, LMBT himself, just exonerated after weird footage of him seemingly using the court sheet book come out, comes back and says, listen, guys, like, you know, we'll send you the demo, which isn't the point at all. That's not a solution to the situation. And now the Forza players, after weeks of terrible Forza PR and their CEOs and managers and coaches all acting like cunts, they now start getting dragged into it and start tweeting shit as well. Like talking about the boy that cried wolf. Here is a fable for
what
you.
A
I think
mad
it was
thing to
Jerry.
quote as well, I know.
Yeah, right. So, and then just to get it worse, Yanko spoke out, former FaZe coach. Yanko spoke out and basically said, yeah, the only team that's ever tried to fuck me over by sneakily recording Go TV was Forza, and they did it on every occasion we played them. I had to make sure I checked. And then
Yanko doesn't give a fuck if y'all haven't figured out yet. It's one of the best qualities about him as a man, isn't it?
Yeah, Yanko really is. Like, he's cut from the same cloth as us too. Like, he's just out there, like, whatever, suck it up, buttercup. He's great. So, yeah, so he then came in, said, noticed it a long time ago. Since then, I would check for it on every server we joined because they'd essentially taught him the lesson that people were doing it. And then the best part, this is his next tweet, was they were always shocked when we would ask them to kick it like it was no big deal. And then LMBT responded with, I was checking it against every team as well. Nothing special, I guess. And then he said, it shouldn't be a thing to begin with. And in all my time as a coach, that's all the time he was the coach of MIPR, all the time he was a coach of FaZe, Forza was the only relevant team that did this. So there you go. So Forza, it went on to Reddit, went on to social media, and now they're trying to play down the significance of it.
There was also one other detail that was actually part of the Peacemaker thing, which is he posted a screenshot. Because here's the thing, what you need to learn, it's a bit like when we were dealing with the Brazilians, where even though they'll make a claim against someone else, when you make the same claim against them, they start with all like the cognitive dissonance. Like, do you hate us? Like, well, you wouldn't say that about another guy. Like, they'll dance around the problem before they ever address it. So similarly, the Eastern European guys, in the same way as when you critique their minor, they start acting like you've said everyone who's Russian is a piece of shit, which isn't what you're saying at all. And start out like they take the battle to somewhere else where they think they can win it. So similarly, right, in the screenshots where these Mad Lions players are basically saying, like, what the hell, why is this like Go TV here? They say, unironically, we'll send you the demo. As though in the middle of being caught, taken back with massive bags with a dollar sign on and fucking black and white robbers outfits, the guy goes, hey, what are you doing in that vault? You go, all right, we'll share. Everyone can have a bag.
Yeah.
Step one. And then step two is this. This is mental. Jerry, who is one of the guys saying he would send the demo, says, and besides, we don't even know where those demos go, and we can't even download them. So, two, counteracting their own story. By the way, I love people who fuck up their own alibis. And then number three, that in itself opens a can of worms, because if there's an active Go TV that you can't access, who is watching it? Like, the whole thing is like, you guys didn't think this through at all. It's actually amazing.
So, I mean, what this also tells me, by the way, is that, you know, for all of our concern about hiring a coach who's cheated, even the guy that was abusing the coach book, supposedly, but was found exonerated, even though there was some weird, inexplicable movement and following plays around in his footage, Well, we also know now in scrims they're up for running game and cheating in other ways. So how are we? What are we supposed to feel about Forza at this point?
If you talk too much shit about them, they catch you outside.
Yeah, yeah.
The trifecta. They've got every angle covered, Rich.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. So basically, like one of the things, and Duncan was right on the money with this, is people will be tuning into Forza games during Flashpoint, but probably to sort of like metaphorically pelt them with rotting fruit.
Yes.
Like boo, boo. And I don't think there's any, this is going to stick with them now for like 6 months to a year, I think, where basically they're going to be considered a bunch of dirty, cheating bastards. And that's kind of like, they've set themselves up for that fall with just terrible PR. I mean, I think, again, great lesson to any upcoming organizations about how to handle your shit. And this is the sort of playbook of how not to do it. Really incredible. Anyway, let's move on. BTN Vindication. BTN Vindication. So let's get into Nico. We'll do Nico first. We'll get that one out the way.
By the way, unironically, bearing in mind idiot fans always quote from interviews, so they think is the gospel truth, whatever a player says in an interview. What I love, though, is that the one area interviews are straight fire is exactly like what you're about to comment on with like both Nico and later on with Esatag, actually, which is when people essentially accidentally, here's the thing, remember, players aren't all super smart and they're not super good at lying, by the way. So they can remember a lie on one angle for 1 month in one team. But eventually they're going to go to another team. And just like my boy Edward, they're just going to accidentally slip up and sort of be like, yeah, us and Zeus were just fucking around, chilling and that, shit, I've had to say that, wait a minute, that's what they were always saying for you. Like, mate, this is mental. Like, these guys, they can't help but actually, like, implicate themselves in this shit later. This is amazing, isn't it, this one?
Yeah. So we'll do Nico first. So you may remember, we often on this podcast, one of the things that always does blow me away, actually, because, you see 2,000, sometimes 3,000 on incredible, like, roundabout big periods, sometimes 4,000 people watching, and then you put it on YouTube and, you might get like 35 to 50,000 people watching. In the grand scheme of things, you don't think that's really a lot, especially not in a scene as expansive as Counter-Strike. But it's not how big the audience is, it's the type of audience we have. And a lot of the stuff we put out there ends up sticking one way or another, or becomes like a meme, and people say it and still say it to this day. I see things we talked about on the show still brought up on Reddit like 4 years later. So it's amazing. I've always thought, like, we need to wield that power responsibly. But one of the narratives we've been telling
CS culture is downstream from this show. There's the fucking tagline.
Yeah. So look, there's the reality, and as a result of that, I always do think carefully when we put narratives on air. Narratives.
Vince was an obvious one where we were just joking about him being retired and back in the game. But unfortunately, he just sees that reference from the show and thinks it's real, and then unfortunately holds us accountable. Even though, sorry, it is straight fire and hilarious. So sorry.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things, like, sometimes it sticks,
Yes.
So as a result, we do try and be careful about what we say and the way we say it. And if we ever bring anything to the table and we're saying it as if it is an established fact, you can probably bet yourself that it's not like speculation. It's like an accumulated knowledge from talking to other people, talking to team owners, managers, coaches, other players, being at events and hearing things that you guys aren't privy to. And while we would never repeat them and sort of break the confidence, we ultimately know the lay of the land in particular topics. And one of the things we were talking about for a long time was Nico in FaZe and how it was all his team and he had all his own way, right? And it was God Emperor Nico and he was picking the roster. And of course, recently, the cunt's been out there, hasn't he? Denying it prior to his move to G2, just laying the foundations down for that move away to a new team where he's suddenly God tier again. We'll come to that. Basically saying, no, none of that was true. I was put in the position. I was made to be the IGL. I always consulted with my team. I always include, I'm the good guy. Everyone else fucking sucks. That's basically the title of Nico's autobiography. So it blew my mind then when his actual homie, the player he always wanted to play with, called Zera, did an interview over at esports and said, quote, where was it? Here it is. When I first joined the team, every player was playing for the team, but in the end, we were playing more for Nico.
And by the way, Cold Zero was only in that team for like 1 year. It's not like he was in it for like 5 years or something, guys. Like, think about that means recently he's talking about. Exactly, by the way, the period that this fucking cunt Nico is telling everyone, I have no control, I don't even bloody want to do this shit. All play for me. You will all do what I say. Like, fuck. This guy, he absolutely is beyond parody. Like, I know when we say that and we joke about, you think it's not true. Like, we're not even exaggerating it much when we go mental about this guy.
Yeah. Like, so you have to ask the question, oh, it's sour grapes, it's saltiness. Those two guys are still friends. There's no sour grapes there.
No.
But Cold Zero is a forthright guy. So pick your poison. Either you can't trust anything Cold Zero says, which, by the way, all the rage, wasn't it, when he was meant to be straight dropping all them dimes, how he made, like, Device cry in the club and all that shit, right? Crying in the club right now. You all loved it when he was being candid then, right? And then Astralis fans were going, probably our lies, innit? Like, right? Which one? What is he, you know? So you all love it when players are candid, but you don't like it when it's going against your fucking narrative that you've crafted in your head. He's got no reason to just come out and drop that now. And I'll also add, if you watch this team play, it was also fucking self-evident. But then you see, what you have to understand is Nico is a great counterstrike player, but he's what also we would call, when I was growing up, a gormless twat, because he actually incriminated himself in his own interviews. You see, it's hard to remember when all the lies.
Yep.
It's hard to keep them straight, mate. So in an HLTV interview, he actually said another narrative we told you, which was that he couldn't be bothered to be the in-game leader anymore. He was burnt out and he didn't want to do it and wasn't putting the effort in. We said that. He didn't like that. Then when he leaves, he says that. You know, it's like, at what point do you have to sort of say, you know, this guy is a fucking joke? You know, like, he needs to get a fucking PR manager.
Also,
another one.
A couple of angles. You know, another classic thing that a fan can never understand. I understand because it takes sort of like deductive reason. Actually, it's inductive reasoning. What you have to be able to do is notice, it's like that famous Sherlock Holmes case, the dog that didn't bark. It's like you have to look at what the guy doesn't say. So I'll give you an example. Nico has done many interviews, especially when FaZe was at their peak, where he would say what would shock a lot of people. He wouldn't say, the best player I've played with is Guardian, is Rain. People who are on the server are going God mode. He famously always said Olaf Meister is the best player I've played with, because he was trying to make a point about Olaf's mind for the game and his understanding of roles. Right? When Nico's left G2 and he's done all these interviews and he's gone there and he's joined things, and he's talked over and over again about his cousin and about he wanted to play with him. No mention at all of the fact that 5 minutes ago, metaphorically, he wanted to play with Cold Zero. He was his best mate, like you said. No mention of why he's leaving Cold Zero, why he doesn't want to play with him, why Cold Zero doesn't get to come with him. Similarly, he never, ever, I went back and I thought about this. He is best friends with Yanko. That is why Yanko took that gig. You will never find a fucking word penned by Nico explaining that Yanko's a good coach, explaining that Yanko isn't to blame for FaZe Clan. Because you know every fan thinks Yanko's shit now because he was in MIBR and FaZe Clan, the two most uncoachable teams of all time.
Which we said at the time, don't take those jobs.
I did. Yep. I told him this is a poison chalice, mate. Like, you think you're going to get through to Nico, it's the other way around. No one can. So he never ever bigs him up. And in fact, in his departing interview, I think it might be this one here, he has some mad line where he says something like he's looking for, this is where again this dumb fucker says one thing and doesn't realize the implication. He says something like that he's sort of looking forward to working with Malek and him having like input, but it's something, the wording is something mad, like, because the last coach didn't like have a lot of input in that sense. That, you mean your friend? Yeah, you've just dropped your own friend in it like that when you know all the community think he's shit. That's the thing Nico doesn't get. For Nico's story to be true, that he's the only one who had no control, nothing to blame, but fragged out, he's blaming everyone else in the whole org. FaZe the org, his coach Yanko, teammates in the org. Like, everyone gets to blame except him. This is shameless, mate. That's where people think we're ragging on Nico. We're putting correct Nico fucking tossing it onto everyone else because someone carries the can. Someone always carries the can with failure.
Well, I mean, listen.
By the way, my interview with Carrigan also, where I had him on that show with Legia, he also is just dropping straight gems about Nico, which is also where Nico can't catch a break, mate. Because Nico, In the 3 days after I had that in the can and was getting it edited by my boys, Nico the very next day had to go and try and drop a burn on Carrigan where he said that thing about like 1 year, 6 months, because you know, like he replied to him like you made me take you over the IGL from it. Because there's the other thing. By the way, that tells you everything about Nico's mentality. He has the narcissist prayer. Everything he does to you, you made him do it. And now he hates you and resents you for making him be a cunt to you. Like, mate, I've seen too many people like that in life. You'll never get through to him. It's why I actually told Carlos straight up. I told him, mate, you are going to have to work a miracle with this guy for the PR. I know he's tried already with a few memes, but that's already since he's joined G2. The guy, the worst qualities, he doesn't have a sense of humor. Like, he can't see even the funniness of this.
Yeah, and like, don't forget as well, I mean, like, as you guys will know from watching the Carrigan interview on the Rivalry channel that I did, you know, this was like, there was so much going on behind the scenes there. Yes. The pressure Carrigan was on. You know, essentially, he fell into that sort of black hole that a lot of IGLs get into when your best player and star player is not on board with your shit. Now what do you do?
That's always a ticking time bomb, always.
Yeah, always. And, you know, it was a ticking time bomb that broke apart, you know, the last good sort of, with Cold Zero and Fallen, the last good kind of, MIPR roster, you know, when they were actually playing okay as opposed to utter shit. But, you know, it's one of those, you need your star player, you need your best player to be on board with what you're doing and lead by example, you know, and if they don't want to do it, you get in this position where it's like, well, like I've lost. It's like having a car with 3 wheels, you know. And I don't, you know, like I don't mean a 3-wheeler, Robin Reliant. I mean a 4-wheel car. It's like really, really hard to get anything done and get anywhere. So Carrigan dropping these dimes, it doesn't surprise me at all. I think Carrigan was really hard done by. He'd been a massive advocate for Nico ever since sort of, you know, back in the mouse sports kind of, you know, yes. when Nico was on and off the bench, things like that. You know, you have to remember, like, his ascent to stardom has been predicated all on his talent on the server. But yes. Somewhere along the line, he's just had people feed his ego to such a point where he's almost unworkable. Yep. Now, just on that point, because incredibly, Nico has vindicated us in his own words, I do want to say, I think G2 will probably be a good place for him, because not only does Carlos understand how to work with big name players and force them to be self-deprecating, like he did with Kenny S recently, but also he was a big name player himself in the spotlight. A lot of people who don't follow League won't know that. Ocelot, basically, Riot Games gave him a choice. You must confess that you're toxic and awful, because I think he used the word cancer one time in a scrim. And you must confess publicly in a video called Taming the Beast or whatever it was, and basically be contrite and never fuck up again, or you're out. You will be out of our little bubble, because we can't have anyone promoting toxicity. Player behavior comes first with us. So he's been there, Carlos. He had to sit, wait, stifle his personality and his instincts, win everyone over with his exuberant personality. But now he can say what he wants. Yep. And fucking Riot can't stop him. He even came out when they had that fucking Neon sponsorship and said, we're not taking no money from a bloodthirsty regime. And they didn't do shit, because Carlos is huge, G2 is dynastic, and he's got a set of nuts on him like not many people in esports do. So actually, I'll get your opinion on this. I think him being in G2 is probably the best thing that can happen. And if Nico is incapable of listening to Ocelot, he's a bigger cunt than I thought he was.
Yeah, basically, my thoughts on this is, like I said, player-wise, obviously he's going to be a fabulous player. Like, everyone knows that, and they have the pieces there to be an amazing team. Still not sure about who they get kicked out, because I don't know that I believe they're doing the 6-man role. I think they're just trialing who they're going to kick, essentially. But what my problem is, as you say there, it's like, this is one of those scenarios, and this is where a lot of fans don't know that I don't go the fanboy route where you stand people. I've told people who are some of my best friends and some of the best players that I've known, like, if they have a bunch of teams where, you know what, yeah, teammates in the last team weren't good enough, or you know what, I didn't get the big offer. I tell them this: when you get that big offer, now's your last chance saloon, son. You got no excuses left. Like, if you don't make it in this team, in the circumstances Rich described there with these players, fuck yeah, it is you. You'd be the only through line between all the teams, mate. Every teammate's different.
So, in other vindication for by the numbers, you may remember as well, there was another storyline that we used to do a lot, because people always go, all you ever do is talk about the same teams. It's like, no, there's always one team shit in the bed so massively that they occupy a streak of about 5 to 6 episodes by the numbers, and then some other cunt eclipses them. Because esports, for all its strong gains, it's still, in terms of its overall professionalism, it's still amateur hour in a lot of areas. But the next one that we had for Vindication, we talked about Na'Vi a lot, and we talked about how Zeus and Edward.
This was too perfect, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know. We talked about how Zeus and Edward were basically, you know, not trying and cruising, and clearly the team wasn't getting along with each other. Well, lo and behold, Edward did a lengthy interview because he wants to get back in the game, back on a team. You know, he's not giving up yet, doesn't realize he should fuck off and stay retired. You know, wants to milk it a little bit more. Because, by the way, as I've said many times, you will never meet bigger attention whores than that fucking Na'Vi team from 2010. You'll never. All of those guys.
Just look at these guys as well, right? Edward and Zeus go back to something mental, like 2003 or something mental, guys. Like, that's how long these guys, I think, have known each other. They were playing in a team in 2005 or whatever. These guys, there's the other thing about players like this. Just like Nico and Cold's era, the second it gets even slightly so they're not together anymore, or they'll trade on each other's fucking secrets.
Oh,
essentially, you're right. What Edward had to do if he wanted to become a pro again, Rich, is he has to find someone to blame for why he was shit at the end of the game. So the person he's choosing to blame is Zeus and the others, as in like, well, we just didn't care. And obviously he's even trying to style it out like that's why he was shit, is he didn't care about the game. But remember, that's in the context at the same time. Everyone says that Simple had the GOAT year of Counter-Strike. 2 of his veterans who were unkickable were just mailing it in while that guy was just killing it, dropping 40 bombs every game.
Which we said.
So they don't get it. In outing themselves as not caring, they make themselves look like the biggest cunts of all time.
But this is what I mean. It's like why you see these guys like making YouTube videos like, you know, Senya and Starix, and they're always there like, oh, we know from a Russian insider, Counter-Strike 2 is coming in the summer. And we know that too, that we're moving across to this new engine. All these videos about like inside information and roster leaks. So they'll do anything to put themselves in the fucking spotlight. Anything at all. And like you say, that team must have been an interesting one to be in 2010, because you can see now how it's all coming out. They are literally rat fucking each other just for a little bit of attention and just an opportunity to milk more money. Like Zeus did some pity party interview recently where he was like going, it'd be great to be back in the city. Mate, how much money do you need to make, you meathead? How much money do you need to grift? Like, you run your own org, massive conflict of interest, no one cares because it's your region. You had a tie to your own gambling site. We'll never know how much money you made off that. You were in the fucking highest paid team in the world in World Counter-Strike in 2010, making money from a Kazakhstani gas magnate who fucking knows what all that was about. You know, you own a sports car. You're always boasting about it. You've been on a massive salary. Like, you know, you were paid for approximately 2 years. You weren't worth a bean, and somehow managed to get a huge deal coming back because you won that fluke major with Gambit. So at the end of the day, mate, like how much more is it gonna take for you just to fuck off and stay gone? Like,
we crowdfund Zeus fuck off.
Yeah.
If we get 100K, does he leave? Like,
yeah.
What are the stretch goals? If we get to 1 million, he just actually like changes his name by Deadpool and never darkens our door again.
It's why I had to stop reading his book, because I got sent an English translation.
Like, didn't you say it's like every story's like some Alan Partridge shit, like, and then I was winning again. Like,
yeah, no, it was like you're 40 pages in, and it's like basically he's like the victim in everything that's ever bad happened to him. He's the victim, his team. You know, he gave up so much for the team, and he's worked so hard, and it's like, you know, he's like a Linkin Park song. You know, like all the lyrics, like it's just him, and it's so terrible. And then like, you know, and then it'll just suddenly shift gears and be just about how much of a fucking sick baller he is, and how he was just honestly, it's too much, mate. I can't handle it. Like, 1 minute he's getting backstabbed by Seized, and the next minute it's like, and then there I am in a strip club, like fucking boshing whiskey, and I'm like, fucking hell, like what, like ridiculous. You know, yeah, no, it is like full part. It's like it is the Russian equivalent of Alan Partridge. Like, it's just too much. Like, it's too much. So I had to stop it, mate, because I was gonna do a review, but it was like, I don't trust myself to like absurdity jars with me very strong.
Oh, no,
you know,
of course.
you know, I grew up with like surrealist humor and stuff, obviously. So and satire. I always wanted to be like, you know, a good writer, a good satirist. You know, it never worked out for me like that. But you know, when you're watching like Chris Morris at age 12 or something, you know what I mean? It's like whenever I see anything inherently absurd, I have to tap out. If it's real, if it's if it's satire, I go, oh, that's brilliant, you know. But if it's real life, it instills in me a sense of cringe so strong. It repels me, like literally, like, you know, magnets, like bing, I just bounce off it. So
oh no, I'll give you an example, by the way. Here's an example of it, right? Again, it's always, by the way, the one that kills you is like this. It's when someone postures trying to be cool while being the most uncool person possible. So I give everyone a little freebie if they've never seen this. Go and search for like Russell Wilson. I'm talking about the quarterback of the Seahawks. It's going to be like Russell Wilson, like ultimate. It's something ultimate something, right? Unlimited. Sorry, unlimited. Put Russell Wilson Twitter unlimited, right? In fact, maybe Sam can pull it up. It's just a little Twitter video that he did, so I don't think we're going to get DMCA because it's from Twitter. Maybe you can pull it up, mate. It's 100% this clip. No, it's not from a broadcast. It's just from his Twitter. It's like a video he films himself. In it, right? Because, let me have a look here. Because, yes, right, play it, because here's the backstory. If you don't know Russell Wilson, one of the things about him is he is a brilliant quarterback, but famously, he is just a boring motherfucker. It's why he called himself Danger Russ Wilson, right? Because he's trying to like have a cool personality, but he doesn't have any. So in this video, you can tell he's tried to like just watch it. At first you'll think for the first minute, like, what are you talking about, Thorne? But when he hits the word, the cringe will start. Actually, your soul will leave your body.
Do you want to 3, 2, 1 it together?
Yeah,
right.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1, go.
Hey guys, Russell here. Yes, the typical boring, Russell, the robot Russell, the one you guys love to know. Real exciting. You know,
I am sleepy already.
But anyways, everybody has to have an alter ego, right?
Just get ready. You can't even handle where this is going.
Would be, and I think I have an alter ego. His name's Mr. Unlimited. Yeah, you got to be unlimited. You know, you
see what I mean?
Process of being unlimited. So when people ask you, you know, what you're thinking about or what you want to do in life or where you want to go, you got to be unlimited. Tell them, I'm unlimited. You know what I mean? So when they ask you certain questions like,
who brings you motivation, Russell?
Get me the
Mr. Unlimited.
What's your role model, Russell?
Unlimited.
As if they've set this up.
No. Dude, he thinks that's cool. His wife's going, yeah, post that on fucking Twitter. That's sick. Like,
love you, Pete, but
God.
Keeps hitting that word. It's like so cringing. Is it like that? That's the feeling I get. Like, mate, I feel like I've been tasered when he says unlimited like that. Like, I can't handle it.
No, it's too much.
It's just a gift for all of y'all on this stream.
Yeah, that is awful. That is awful. But anyway, so Edward vindicated us in our narratives about Na'vi. Turned out we were right again. And then there was another, and it's only a brief one, but a baby vindication. There was a video, an interview with Tag, just a quick one about joining Cloud9.
I love this one, mate. This is so mental, isn't it?
And he said in it that I was super grateful for my time having joined Astralis as a stand-in because it helped set me up to join Cloud9. Wait a minute.
I can't handle it. Get me out.
No, but wait a minute, though. Wait a minute. I thought he was part of a 10-man roster, Dunk. I thought he was part of a 10-man roster. I thought he was on the books for realsies.
Like I said before, you remember when I made that point when he was sold? That alone vindicated that the concept was nonsense. Because logically, if you're in Astralis and you're going to have a 6 and 7 man rotation, you want the 6th or 7th man to be good enough to play in Astralis. So when you play in Astralis and show you're really good, why the fuck would you sell him? That's the only player you need. So then they sell him, right? And I go, makes it seem like he wasn't really the 6 or 7 man. Then he goes to another team. It's like he's too. It's like there must be a fucking Magic the Gathering aura around Nicola Nyholm and fucking Astralis. Like, he's obviously the black color on that one. Once he leaves the aura of that card, he forgets all the lies. So he just goes, well, in my time as a stand-in, you know, definitely not playing for real for Astralis.
Yeah,
like, guys, that's right. You're just giving that one up for free as well.
Yep. So thanks for that. So
I love it. Yeah, cheers, mate.
That ends the segment of by the numbers vindication. So next time you're thinking, if you're one of those Reddit accounts.
And 1,000 so far in this show, aren't we? It's fucking mental,
yeah.
mate.
Yeah, if you're one of those lunatics that are always there in our threads, like you know who you are, saying, I don't think any of this is true. Right, wake the fuck up. Like, it's unbelievable how many times we've been right on this show.
The angle that triggers me, Richard, is where they go to how they think about people in the scene. So they think about people, whether they're right or wrong, whether they like them. So when they hear you criticize someone, why do you hate Cold Zero? Why do you hate Device? Right, think about this, guys. Why did I talk shit on Zeus? Think of the timeline. ESL Cologne 2018, when he won the tournament, guys. Why would I talk shit on him? You are disrespecting him. I knew and even told you on this show, he doesn't put the hours in. He has simple, he has electronic, and he doesn't put the fucking hours in. So when they lose, you have to look at him. You have to say, what the fuck are you doing? No, you just hating on a legend. Like, you should respect him for what he's doing. When I hate on these Astralis players. First of all, you'll notice when I criticised Astralis, I kept the players out of it for the first 6 months, maybe. But weirdly, when they started doing interviews, lying about what we've said, I started to add the players to the mix. I must just hate them, right? No, I'm telling you, in subtext, they're part of it now. They're some of the liars. They're the scumbags. Like, it's the other way around, guys. I don't hate Astralis. Everyone called me a Astralis dick sucker for about 4 years. The point is, when they lie, that makes me dislike them. I don't dislike them, therefore make up lies. That would be an easy way to get caught as well, by the way. There's another thing. You can all say we lie in the moment. But you know what? When someone says in a Reddit thread, we brought this up on the episode of Monty, I don't get it. Why do people hate Thorin? I find him funny. We all know those mentally ill Ted Kaczynski level motherfuckers appear with a dossier of tweets and fucking links and stories and always that one about fucking Katowice, right? If you have all those links, quick question for you guys. Bearing in mind, some people just like my content and don't give a fuck about my personality. Wouldn't it be really effective if you had some stories that showed we lied? There isn't one on the internet. It doesn't exist. I've never seen one that me and Richard was shown to have lied. Like a really comprehensive story, outsource, details. No, maybe we got a minor detail wrong every now and then.
I think the only one I can think of for you is obviously when you got mad fucking gaslit with the Flashpoint ESL thing.
Oh, yes. I was wrong on that one, yes.
But you immediately, as soon as you confirmed it, the next day said, I was wrong. I don't know if you deleted the original tweet, but I know you came out and said, I was wrong about that. My information was false.
I apologise.
I am sorry. Yeah, exactly.
I tagged ESL in it as well. Oh, yeah, and that's the other thing people don't get. That was one where you're right. I was literally gaslit. Two major people within Flashpoint told me, oh, yeah, they went over our dates. When I went back to them afterwards and said, you know, they're saying that they were dates up, they were like, well, I mean, when we said and it's like, oh, you fucking done me. I even told them behind the scenes, you ever do that again, I'll be out the door, mate, because I have to know I'm righteous when I'm indignant. I have to know I've got God behind me, mate, when I go to war with these companies. I can't be going out there and saying that and then some idiot go, well, actually, here's the evidence that's wrong. And I'm like, why would you guys tell me that? Like, what the fuck? Like, so yeah, that's like one of the few cases. And as you say, I owned it instantly, mate. I don't keep that going for years and go, well, they'll never catch me. You can't fully prove that they did the dates. Like, no. So when we say all these things, again, this is also the one other thing I'll say is this. Like I said, with some of the Zeus stuff, we can also only go so far. Like, as we actually said to Zeus in essentially a threat where he did that stupid video of me privately and said all that stupid shit. He scared of me. Look at me. He won't even look at me. As he secretly filmed me after winning the event from under a staircase in the fucking hotel at Cologne. As we told him then, mate, we know your skeletons. And the whole point is, people don't get this. We don't put people's skeletons out on Front Street. Unless it somehow is involved in the case or has been publicised, I don't tell people, you think I'm lashing out. You're a child. You just say anything because you hate them.
Exactly.
If I ever opened my own fucking dead man's drive of my brain and the shit I remember, I could fucking wreck these guys' reputations. The point is, there's a line you don't cross with that. So, unfortunately, we have to just intimate it to you guys. Like, Zeus doesn't seem like he puts the hours in. We can't tell you that a player told me that straight up to my face. Well, a player once told me from Navi, of course we're not going to win the tournament. If you knew how much some of these guys put time in, like, simple, I'd have to play 3 times as good as a normal player. Never mind 2.
Yeah, and the other point of that is as well, like some of these players are really good at sort of like cloaking what they're doing because they knew motherfuckers were like looking at their fucking Steam accounts and all that shit.
Yep.
Like remember what happened with fucking Bialy?
People don't know this. Zeus was legendary in Navi a few years back for having the most Steam hours. Because he was leaving it on for hours and hours, Rich, obviously. So as a result, people used to do that thing where they used to do those threads before a major. Look at the hours on this here. So here's the joke. The guy who had the most hours was spoofing it, essentially, was the guy playing the least. Yeah. You're right. Some of them are, because normally they're so stupid, when they just put in one layer of like a trap to it, it makes them seem like geniuses compared to the rest of the people in the scene.
Yeah. So Vindication over. Now, Duncan, I've got a surprise for you.
Come on.
There was no way this could work on the show unless I hit you. Bam,
oh, okay. I wonder where this is going.
From left field. So, obvious. This is your life. You thought you were it.
In he comes, and he's got a little announcement.
It's Zeus's music. No, it's not that. Obviously, you did an announcement of your own recently, which is you said you've gone into a consulting partnership with Guild, the Guild esports organization, one that's been in a lot of headlines lately. Because David Beckham has been attached to it as a potential investor. Some people have said that might be a bit overblown, his involvement, but I mean, they're all overblown. You've heard about multiple sports stars involved with esports organizations, and you'd be amazed how very few.
They very rarely know what's going on. Yeah, of course. Someone just tells them.
It was like Shaq with NRG, where it was only like by virtue of E-League existing, Shaq was doing content for that.
It's when they asked him on Inside the NBA. So what about those two players who've joined your team? And he's like, just 9N and silent. He was just making up out of his eye. It was actually embarrassing because you were just like, mate, you've never even watched these guys play.
I did hear while I was there that he was pissed off at being put on the spot like that because he just like to look silly, you know. But yeah, no one does. But anyway, so you did an announcement that you were going to be consulting with Guild Esports. By the way, I can already
tell where you're going with this, mate, because the response was actually mental. This is shows no one reads, doesn't it?
Yeah. So there was a thread made on Reddit, which basically said that this constituted a conflict of interest, even though. And this is what. And listen, Duncan, I've had enough. I can't let your swamp creature behavior drag me down.
Tell us there are no conflicts of interest, and then just start using that word when you don't even know what it means. How are they going to do this to us, Rich? Like it's like they know that'll trigger us by just making up imaginary conflicts of interest.
Yes. So I don't know in what capacity Duncan could have a conflict of interest. It's also
declared it fucking publicly.
Yes,
I'm working with
it's publicly declared, and I imagine if you were to produce any content talking specifically about Guild, you would also include a disclaimer.
Just as I do with Flashpoint, of course. I always even say that if we ever talk about them, I always say, and of course I work for them, stick that no count. Yeah, of course.
So I did want to ask this though, because obviously if you were to advise Guild to put a CS team in Flashpoint, who, lest we forget, you do work for them.
Yes.
That could be a conflict of interest.
Yeah, theoretically.
So what would happen?
Well, I mean, that hasn't even come up as conversation. So,
no, obviously.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing. First of all, I don't actually think that is what my consulting will be. Like, when I say a consulting partnership, there's another thing. I'm not like a full-time member of their org. Like, I'm just consulting. So as long as they want to pay me for the hours of consulting, I'll be consulting with them on maybe who they hire as a GM or a coach or players. Because I know it's the other angle as well that people completely missed. Even loads of pro players, mate, were sending me DMs like, congrats on the gig. Like, do you want to sign this player? It's like, I just consult with them, mate. Like, I don't sign the players. Like, that's not even my role. Like, I'm not. People acted like I'm the GM of the team. Like, I'm not. I'm just consulting with them. As in, they run things by me. They ask what I think about this angle. Who should we get? I maybe say, if you've got this much money. I think that is a key angle, though, is logically, while I work at Flashpoint, well, I want more teams to become founding partners, especially if they have a lot of money, right?
Exactly.
So I agree that is a conflict of interest. I would say, first of all, I don't make any decisions like that within Flashpoint. I have no say in that whatsoever. Secondly, in terms of the Guild aspect, I don't actually anticipate that will be part of it. Like, personally, I don't actually know yet what their plans are in terms of what leagues they want to be involved in. Like, remember, they might have raised a lot of money, but to go straight into a league like Flashpoint, that's pretty bold. That's not just saying I want a team. That's saying I might be here forever. So I think in that scenario, personally, I would tell them privately, I'd have to recuse myself from telling you whether Flashpoint's a good thing or not, because I actually have a larger stake in working for Flashpoint. So I'll tell you, I can tell you every other piece of expert advice, but you'd need to ask someone else if you think that's a good deal. In fact, what I'd maybe even do is tell them, go ask other Flashpoint teams, go ask other EPL teams, ask the reasons why they did or didn't do it, and then you make your own mind up on that one.
Now,
I have no problem recusing myself immediately with an issue like that.
Of course. So I wanted to get it on record because obviously the fucking Reddit thread in a new segment of the show that many people don't seem to enjoy. Typically on Reddit they don't enjoy it. Called Redditors are morons. Comments on Reddit going, I wish they would just stop bashing on Reddit commenters because it's become really boring. They do it for so long in the show, and I can never make it through the show now because real true facts, not delusional shit. But there was a guy in this one thread. It's brilliant. He was so assured of his point being true, he was spamming the thread with the same thing. And it was a chap called 22 Max with 2 X's. Like the Max, the comic, which was pretty good.
Nice old school reference.
Yes, indeed. Great one. And a great cartoon on MTV back when MTV wasn't absolute garbage. Nice conflict of interest. This isn't different from the situation with Astralis and Blast, which, of course, it is different because a consultant doesn't own the team. I'm sure you would like very much to own Guild in a way, Duncan. Might be an asset you could flip somewhere down
There's
the line.
even a joke you could obviously work in there, couldn't you, about someone else who might own the team. So,
yeah.
Very lucrative, couldn't
it? And you don't own Flashpoint either. And
no, I do have shares in Flashpoint, but that's it.
Okay. So despite saying it was that it was exactly the same as the situation.
There's also no connection at the moment between Guild and Flashpoint as well.
Yes. Obviously, Guild doesn't even have a team in Flashpoint.
They don't have anything counterstrike except me consultant at the moment.
Yeah. So he then doubled down and said, this is absolutely a conflict of interest, same as the Astralis and Blast situation, and then proceeded to spam the definition of conflict of interest in the thread, despite him being so brain dead.
It counteracts exactly what he said, did it? What was the definition he gave?
No, he said the conflict of interest is a situation in which a person or organization is involved in multiple interests, and serving one interest could involve working against another. So you see,
doesn't give an example, I notice.
Well, but it that hasn't happened yet.
No, that's why I wonder what he thinks which interest does being in Guild or Flashpoint mean that Guild or Flashpoint lose out?
Well, I think the assumption is that they're going to get a CSGO team immediately and then immediately insert them into Flashpoint.
Which is an enormous assumption.
Yes. But I think he's made that assumption, assumed it to be true, and then
what this plays back into, mate, is when people act as though I either do own Flashpoint or I decide everything, even though my title is creative director. Because, ultimately, it shows how people are in esports. This is why Shaq getting involved in a team works, because then people talk that Shaq's team. It's not in any way. It's in the most minor way possible by the definition of ownership. It is his team. But it's also loads of other people's teams, and he doesn't seem to have a controlling interest. He definitely doesn't decide any operational stuff. So to actually say it's his team, here's how I know we'll never get past this. You might remember in the NBA when there was that massive story in the 2010s that was Jay-Z owns the Nets.
Yes.
Jay-Z owned an incredibly tiny amount. The real owner of the Nets, by the way, was a fucking Russian millionaire guy who made all the decisions. But everyone kept talking the reason they're going to go to Brooklyn is because Jay-Z's hooking up. It's is he? Does he even decide that? Again, people just want simple. Let's face it, with the election, people want a story condensed to one person. One person decides it all. So, I don't see what the connection is there personally. If they did join Flashpoint, they could. By the way, that would now become a legitimate concern. Yeah, I think you should bring that up if they become the 9th Flashpoint team or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and obviously the other reason was that I did see some comments. Wonder if his friend Richard Lewis, his
spoke to me.
Yeah. I wonder if his friend Richard Lewis will speak out against this conflict of interest. Probably not. Bet him and DK will be silent. Rules for thee and not for just shit like this.
By the way, did people miss the episodes where we took beloved people that we think are awesome in esports, like Hunden, and basically said they shouldn't have a fucking job that they have? Or what was the other one? Who was the other one? Ents did it as well. Yeah, but these are people I have no hard feelings against. Some of them I even like, but I even told them privately, like, I think you should actually, I even said to some of them, even if they offer you a job, for the sake of your own integrity, man, just quit it. Go and serve your time. Go do something else. Come back in a year.
I'm mates with Banks. We fucking eviscerated him on this show.
Yes.
It's like, at the end of the day, like, just truth is the truth. Opinion's opinion. I give my honest opinions, which are usually informed by the truth, and I don't, and it just is what it is. People can either get on board.
You even told me you thought the PR for Flashpoint was bad earlier this year.
Yeah, I did, yeah. Thought you handled it all, all fucked up. So it's just how it is. Like, I think when you truly like someone and truly have a respect for them, you give them the gift of honesty.
Yes.
Right?
And they should, by the way, if it's a real friendship, be like, listen, I don't like hearing the harsh truth, but yeah, cheers, okay. In fact, the fact that someone I know would tell me that means I have to consider it now. I've got to reflect on it. I can say my favorite friendships with people have been like that, where I've been able, like, I've had friendships with people where I've basically told them, listen, mate, like, here's how people are perceiving you in the community. You don't know it, but that's why people are giving you shit on this one issue. And they'll be like, yeah, but I'm not like that. And I'll be like, you are kind of, though. There's a grain of truth to it. You've got to look at it.
Yeah.
You need it. You need the real from people like that. Otherwise, it doesn't sink in. You think it's just haters otherwise, don't you?
Yeah, like people might not even believe this, but like me and Duncan talk about, like, for example, there's this perception that we're just out here, like, tweeting whatever we want and trying to offend people and upset people, which I will say, like, with the
that's result. A hobby occasion.
Yeah, exactly. You can always tell when I've got it.
I always say, because the idiot goes, they get more famous and clicks and money from them.
Yeah, I know.
We only hurt ourselves. I view it as a luxury, like a cigar. Probably isn't good for you. You know what? If you just signed $1 million deal, why not puff away on one? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
every time you give yourself a little luxury.
Yeah, no, so people can tell if I've been drinking the night before, because when I'm hungover and I can't be asked to get out of bed, but my brain's on, right? Like, that's when I do my tweets.
Yeah, of course.
That's when I'm there, because it's like, for the next 2 or 3 hours, I'm garbage anyway. So what am I going to do?
I don't get enough sleep, and I'm in that mood where, you drink the caffeine and you go, fuck, I hope this works. Because every now and then it's like the elixir, in it. Every now and then, an hour later, you're like, this is fucking brilliant. I love caffeine. But when you have the caffeine and you think to yourself, I must not have had my I've drank it already, but I feel like shit still. That's when I just go, time to open Twitter, and whatever flashes before my eyes. If I see Device tweets a congratulations to this team, all right, Device, you can get it, mate. Nico, fucking, I just go off and I go, right. It's almost like therapy, like in a mad way. If you don't really want to help me, you should just give me like a fake simulation version of Twitter where I just go fucking ham like a
and everyone applauds. It does a great job.
And it's not actually real though. Like, those tweets aren't going outside the building. And then eventually later I go, fucking hell, I went ham this morning. You go, don't worry, they didn't go out. Like, oh thanks.
Yeah, I hate when that happens as well, when the coffee doesn't work. Like, when you get hangovers so bad, but you're so desperate to wake up and get your brain correct, but you drink so much coffee that your heart is aching.
It kills you, yeah.
Yeah, before your fucking brain is on. Yeah, they're the worst days. But yeah, I mean, like, so anyway, like, people probably don't realize, like, I've said to Duncan, don't know about that tweet, mate, like, privately, like, or stuff like that, and vice versa. Duncan said, watch out for that, mate, because it can be interpreted this way. Try and keep each other honest. It's not like we think everything we say is great, or all our behavior, or like each other's behavior is great. We're not like co-conspirators or enablers of each other's worst instincts. Like, we have very honest and frank conversations behind the scenes, because that is what comes after, a lifelong relationship of respect. And we've said in the past, before we sort of got to know each other professionally, we said some pretty fucking unreal things back in the days of the internet, where you could literally fucking tee off on people, not like fucking. Yeah, not like this babby shit. Now, it's basically what's happened on social media is sort of like what happened in MMA. Like, but back in the old days, you could crucifix hold someone and headbutt them till they were unconscious while gouging their eyes. And now it's like, oh, are the gloves too bad? Oh, you eye poke. Here's a minute. That's what's happened basically. Like.
Oh, we're back in the fucking old school, like in the 90s NFL, where when like some linebacker didn't even make a play on the ball, mate. He just smashes you, like Ronnie Lott just fucking kills you. And then, I guess he's a safety. But then, right, mate, Even though, if we all know now what we know about NFL, that guy's definitely got CTE, probably never going to have the same life. His teammates are running over. That's how you fucking take him down, boy.
Yeah.
That's the spirit I want in this team. Like,
Yeah.
you're just doing permanent damage to people's brains. It's a game.
Basically, the old school internet was the XFL, right? And for those who don't know, that was like the Vince McMahon, and I'm not talking about this XFL, I'm talking about the original XFL.
Original one, yeah.
Yeah, this is like where Vince McMahon wanted to create like an attitude era style football league. They brought in some rules to make the hits like more intense. So players
needed that in the NFL at the time as well.
Yeah, I know, crazy, right? So they even said, right, we're getting rid of the fair catch rule. So that means no matter how much of a hospital kick it is with that ball hanging up there, and you have to catch it for your team, someone can just run in, smash you, absolutely wipe you out, and that happened, and people were getting injured left, right, and centre. Also, to get the ball, instead of a coin toss, the ball was down on the floor. You were like 10 meters apart, and both people had to run as fast as they could to grab the ball.
I don't know if they actually did, but obviously, referencing half coming here, I like to imagine Vince McMahon was just a really big fan of speedball too, when he was like, "This is actually
wait. You know, ice cream,
it was, you know,
ice cream."
Exactly.
Yeah, no, mate, it was fucking insane. So basically, that was what the old internet used to be like, old forums and stuff like that. Nothing was off limits. Nothing was forbidden. You just had to make the opponent fucking hurt as much as you could, and all the while hope that your burns were so savage that all the other cunts like you would go, haha, love these savage burns, and that they would like flock to you. I mean, that's like basically how I launched my audience on Twitter. It was essentially popping off at much bigger celebrities, if you like, much bigger.
And you notice as well, unlike us, because we actually got past it, there was a lot of people where that's where the fucking resentment began. Like, if people don't know, that's why, if you don't know that backstory of Hellspawn, you'll never understand that loaded situation. You don't know the pretext.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know that guy was waiting for years for a chance for like Richard to sort of like fucking let his guard down so he could stick the little shiv in and go, the hidden dagger is the most deadly, Richard. Who is the big man now? Like, you know,
exactly.
He was waiting for that moment.
Yeah, fucking Baron Harkonnen. I should have seen it coming, mate. As if I got played like fucking Leto. Nightmare. Anyway, so let's do an actual event, a good event.
Yes.
Enjoyable Counter-Strike. Holy shit, who saw that coming on the fucking menu? Obviously, the Blast. Finally, we got a mix of international teams. For those who haven't been following Counter-Strike for a while, because I get weird messages all the time going, I don't even follow Counter-Strike. I just like listening to you talk. It's like, okay, we are talking about Counter-Strike most of the time, but whatever. Anyway, they've all been sort of put into regions, you know, Europe, NA, CIS. So every time there's a tournament, you get IEM, New York, New York and American division, IEM, New York, Europe, IEM, New York.
Is this current
Russia.
one where it's IEM, Beijing, Haidang? Like, it couldn't even just be one place that they're not going to, Richard. It's Beijing and Haidang, fucking hyphenated, and no team is going there from any of the regions. Like, the whole thing's just like, what is this system ESL? What is it?
So anyway, they had a great one. Basically, this was all like sort of seeding for later tournaments. So you don't crown a winner effectively. It's like if you top the group, you know, you're sort of seeded for the further event down the road. Because you know, in the circuit, but there was some great results, and I'm just gonna pick storylines out, as we always do with these tournaments, things that really leapt out to me as they were unfolding. Because obviously, we break it all down across the board, there's sort of too much to talk about. But the big story for me, and one I've recorded a video with for Deserto, which will be out probably Monday, was the emergence of MIBR, this new look MIBR. Now,
isn't that so fucking rich?
Also, more vindicate. This is the vindication special, right?
Imagine that. If you asked even the analysts, the ones I keep calling out, because I'm going to keep doing it until you all just acknowledge that you're full of shit on some of this stuff and that you went too far. If you acknowledge it, we can move on. It's cool. If I asked you guys, Fur and Fall and leave MIBR, are they ever good again? I'd be told there's no chance. I mean, listen, I wouldn't lie. I'd probably say there's no chance. But, like, this really does show how far those players had fallen in terms of their influence and what they were doing to the fucking players on their team. Because, mate, one of the key storylines on this one is, I'll admit myself, I don't know most of the players on this team. I vaguely knew the VSM guy only because of the VAC ban. I have no idea who the Leo Drunky guy is. But the one that really kills me is this. When we pointed out that MIBR was the modern day NIP, they had the Poison Chalice 5th spot, And your job is to eat shit so that they don't eat shit and they suck the fucking life force out of you. The second they left that team, this TRK guy fucking is like going off.
Yeah,
mate.
and not just TRK, KNG. He had a fucking baller tournament, mate. Like, seriously, go look at the fucking numbers. It's insane. So, I know no love lost with KNG, but fucking credit where it's due always. Yeah. Credit where it's due always. And he's another guy. You remember the pressure he was under when he came into MIBR? He was meant to be the savior, finally, after all of the fucking things that were keeping them apart. And it didn't work out. So, one of the narratives that we were telling you was those players had fucking given up. They didn't care about anything except counting the money. And listen, people were saying to me, how dare you say that? I know how hard those guys practice. A team with Fallen, Taco, and Fur, and anyone else, I don't give a fuck who, right? Well practiced, doesn't lose to the 82nd team in the world, doesn't lose to the 66th best team in the world, teams you've never heard of, doesn't lose to Whistler fucking Krakow. They stopped fucking caring. They didn't give a fuck about the fans. Even came out as well when they were arguing with Gaules, one of their biggest supporters, for having the temerity to say, I think they've hijacked the MIBR name and are running it in the mud a little bit right now, right? They spat in the face of everyone who supported them, right, the entire time. And I did a mad report about it in opinion pieces and had to fucking deal with the shit being flung at me from Brazilian fans who are like, you just hate Brazil, you just hate these guys, why do you hate us, man? All of this, you're a xenophobe. It was never about that. I was on your side, you fucking idiots. I was on your side. I don't want the #1 Brazilian representatives, legendary players in Counter-Strike, phoning it in for a paycheck at your expense because they can go to a tournament and 200,000, 250,000 people will just get added on the numbers instantly by virtue of them being there. I don't like CS royalty that gets to cruise on mediocrity for years and years and years without anyone saying anything. I'm the guy who, when you're in a fucking lift and there's that smell, I say, who the fuck's farted? That's me. That's how I'm living. I'm not about this fucking like gaslit reality that I have to get on board with, where those guys were trying so hard and really wanted to do it for the fans. They didn't give a fucking shit. They didn't give a fucking shit about you or even the org that was paying them. They dragged that name into the mud. They had to do a hard reset to have any chance to salvage it. So, with that in mind, with the stage being set, they had to scramble so hard to meet their contractual commitments to the Blast, to Flashpoint, and they had to sign just a random group of Brazilian players on short-term contracts. But here's the genius they did. They managed to coax KNG out of his fucking stupid, fatalistic, ride-or-die mentality.
That is
right?
so mad that he made those statements and then just came straight back for the paycheck.
Yeah.
It's mental, isn't it?
Well, listen, thank fucking God
That's
he
what
did.
he should do, but it's just like the problem with that is don't posture that you're like, as you say, it was almost the terms of like, I'm ride or die. KNG, that's not just a fucking turn of phrase. The idea is you ride or you are willing to die for the person. Like, you're not going, I'll ride until I'm going to lose my job. Oh, listen, boy, see you on Monday. Like, that's not ride or die, is it? That's right till Monday.
Yes, exactly. So right till Monday. Hashtag right till Monday.
Sounds like
the KNG story.
Cup or something, doesn't it?
Yeah. But anyway, so, you know, like, they did some genius things. They're bringing Lucas back as an anchor, someone who knows, and it tells you everything about who fucked over Lucas. Yep. It weren't the management, or he wouldn't have come back at short-term notice, would he?
All the rejects, basically, bringing him back in the fold.
Yep, so Lucas comes back in. Obviously, TRK now's got space to play. And what a great pickup. VSM, we all knew he was talented, but this Leo Drunky, Leo DRK, whatever he's called himself, I don't know if he needs to reband with the drunky thing in case there's a negative connotation. So I did hear some casters calling him both. I don't know. But anyway, those guys, right, were assembled, brought together, and given a legendary badge that probably some of them couldn't have dreamed that they would ever wear on their jersey. And the piece de resistance, the genius. Finally, we end the fucking Godfather Fallen era, and we bring back the original fucking G of Brazilian Counter-Strike.
By the way,
yes,
the
we bring back
person who could basically make that brand mean anything because he basically built it on his shoulders. Like, if people don't know, That's like, I'll give you the analogy. It's like in the 90s when the Pittsburgh Penguins were going out of business. Mario Lemieux, the most legendary player in their history, just bought the team. So instantly everyone cared again because obviously the most, like, fuck, he's back. Like that's. I thought this was cynical at first, but when I found they were really practicing, I saw these results. It's just actually a fucking sick, like, turning the corner.
Yeah, and listen, right? What better way to fucking get like anyone who even vaguely understands the history of Counter-Strike and the history of the MIBR brand on board? Now, I heard behind the scenes, so I'll just straight drop this. I think he's even said it in interviews, so I don't even think it's a big secret. But I've heard that Dead sort of like mocks Kogu and thinks that actually he's the guy that would dine out on past glory, and he's the guy that doesn't have a lot of input, right? You know, again, self-awareness not his strong point, unfortunately, right? But anyway, to most Brazilians that understand the history of Counter-Strike, to people who go back to 1.6, MIBR was Kogu. Like, he's back. The one true king is returned. It's like fucking Aragorn, right? So these kids wanted to work so hard, and man, did they. They had 7 days to get a map pool together and go and play against some of the best teams in the world. And I know they only finished 7th to 9th, but every series... yeah, every series was competitive. You know, they have overtimes and take a map off Astralis on day one. People were like, it's new team syndrome, Astralis coming back, first with Zipnix, all of this. No, it weren't, because they could have battered a G2 who literally was sort of dragged through by Nico being absolutely insane again. So they took a map off them and had overtimes. And then, crucially, like, saving the best to last, obviously along the way, they beat Furia 2-1. We were just talking about Furia, who were 5th in the world like a couple of weeks ago, potentially doing so well at this tournament. They might jump up to the #1 spot in the world. MIBR didn't just beat them, by the way. On the last map, they fucking broke their fucking jaws. 16-4 on Vertigo, mate. Unbelievable, with TRK and that Leo Junkie kid absolutely bodying people like frag-wise. So think about what that means. Think about what that says. So I even put a tweet out, I think, at the time and did it on stream. You know, like at the end of the day, if you were an MIBR fan that like sort of threw your jersey in the bin and started wearing a Furia one, listen, you can be proud again. Because a little bit of fucking pride, it turns out, actually does go a long way. This is a team that mastered Nuke in 7 days. It's ridiculous what they achieved, and they absolutely deserve to be respected. I hope they can keep it going because, not only for a sense of personal vindication, but I see what's happening in Brazilian Counter-Strike almost like what happened in NA, where you had the old gatekeepers that, you know, like you had Daze, you had Steel, you know, you had the big name players that were always given chance after chance after chance, no matter how washed and fucked up they were, because you had to know the people to get the chances. And then when the iBuyPower ban happened, the one good thing that came out of it was like a hard reset in the scene.
Clean the decks.
Yes. Now, Dead and Taco are talking about making a team together. Brilliant. I've had it. We don't know what Fallen's going to do. I don't know if he can come back and play. I don't think he needs to. Nothing to prove. We'll wait and see.
The story where it said that team's going to replace Phelps with Fur. It's like, mate,
yeah.
Is Fur some sort of demon sent from hell to just torture Phelps for his entire career? Like, he's never out to get away from this fucking guy. Like,
no, never.
It's unreal. He's just cocking him every time in every team.
Yeah. But anyway, like I say, the reality is like these guys can be immensely proud of what they achieved, and the MIBR brand, it can start clawing itself back. It can start getting back a little bit of credibility, a little bit of reputation. Like, don't fall into the trap, guys. If you end up watching this podcast, because I've talked to Kogu and interviewed him in the past and stuff. Don't fall into the trap of thinking one good tournament showing with mostly losses is enough. Keep working. Go to Flashpoint. Set yourself the standard to win. Let's look forward to like a fucking MIBR Cloud9 Flashpoint final. 2 new teams clawing their way up in the rankings with high aspirations. That's something all the fans can get on board with.
And if they can show, by the way, there's another thing. because the format at Flashpoint is mad generous, because if people don't know, even though it's a GSL group, it's not just the top 2 get out. Essentially, some of the others get the third place teams get a last chance qualifier where 2 more make it. So basically, you can even finish 3rd in your group and potentially make the playoffs. So if you're a team like MIBR, you're going to have lots of chances where if you can deliver and you can show form like Blast, now it's on. Now people will start to get hyped. People will even say, don't shut the project down. Keep it open. Let's keep it running.
Yeah. Obviously as well, like inversely, we're talking about the rise of MIBR. Furia didn't have anything
so underwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah, really underwhelming, because again, we talked about them. You know, they still sort of climbed a little bit because of everything that was going on. They're now up to 4th in the world. But man, this was their chance. Like they're never gonna have a better mathematical chance, I don't think, of ever getting to that number 1 spot.
Unfortunately, made NA look shit, because EG and Furia came in with the big dicks, like we've been bossing it over in NA, and they were even arguing. Like, I don't know if people saw this before this tournament. Ethan was arguing with me that actually the rankings are unfair because they don't get as many points for winning their tournaments. I tried to explain to him, but the point is, mate, you still get more points than if you'd lost at a European tournament, don't you? Because there's more competition. But to him, he imagined probably that it was unfair. Like, we should get the credit. Well, unfortunately, this doesn't make it look good. This is why people refuse to let NA have the status of the region.
I can link both of them here, actually, in a way, talking about EG and Furia. I think the COVID situation has really made them suffer, because as they've been thrown into these isolated leagues, essentially, and only playing each other and only online, we've seen the mad little trifecta between Team Liquid, Evil Geniuses, and Furia crop up over and over again, kind of like, paper, rock, scissors, right? Where they're all kind of like overlapping and beating each other. And I just think they've forgotten what it's like to play other teams that might be a little bit more tactically structured or do things that their players don't. They've fallen into that comfort zone of like, well, we can get one over on Team Liquid on our day, and we can get one over on Fury on our day. That's enough to win a tournament. Well, it ain't enough to win an international tournament. And eventually, guys, international CS is going to be coming back. So yeah, I agree. Crazy underwhelming performance from all of them. But I mean, like EG, I still feel, even when they went on that mad run and climbed up the rankings again, I still feel like they're a coin toss when they play European teams. I still do. I still do. And yeah, and whereas Furia, for me, have been in such good form, I had them going all the way in this.
I thought they were going to do big things here, yeah.
Yeah, not going out. Like, and like you said, just massively underwhelming, especially when, they lost to MIBR. There's no, but at which point, by the way, it wasn't like they played like an MIBR that was, they actually played an MIBR that had already got the plaudits. Everyone was sucking their dicks after Astralis. They could have took their foot off the accelerator. No, this was Furia not turning up, and MIBR playing very, very well. So yeah, massively disappointing tournament for them. Also, another storyline that came out, a lot of people very interested in seeing how the Juggernauts would do. Obviously, Complexity, made them JKS move. Everyone was saying, right, fucking game on. This is the one. And bit of a mixed bag, honestly. Like, they beat a FaZe who had a stand in at Olaf Meister this tournament, and Olaf Meister literally was just slotted into playing Nico's positions by the looks of it tactically. I think they're kind of phoning it in until that team sort of evaporates and everyone ends up on other rosters.
Also hilarious that, as we pointed out last episode, Nico himself repeatedly stated that Olaf wouldn't be coming back, but the second Nico leaves, Olaf's just happy to come back to the team. Weird how this works, isn't it, guys? Like, how many fucking pieces of circumstantial evidence do you need?
Yeah. So they did get sort of unlucky in the sense that they were playing Vitality. I think that's like a very big form matchup as well, and they lost that 2-1. The real one that surprised me is them going out of the tournament at the hands of Big. I didn't have that at all. And sure, the Vertigo, which was Complexity's pick, that's a 16-14. You can say that's unfortunate, but they were absolutely battered on Dust too, and that was surprising to me because realistically, you would expect a side like Complexity, if you need to play loose and just rely on him and do your business, they've got the tools to do that. But they were just straight up losing fights against Big, and
they had quite bad performances from a bunch of players, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, Poison in particular is missing from that game, and obviously you need your AWPer to get more than 5 frags on Dust too. Like, there's no getting away from that as a reality. But, you know, Blame F was still doing the business. I thought overall, a solid debut for JKS. I think
he was pretty good.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
he can't have had much practice when he joined the team.
And that was going to be my question to you. What would it be in, you know, new player, new roster? They've just come back from having a stand-in with NATO Safex. I mean, is there any point, is there anything worthwhile in being overly critical of complexity here?
I don't think so. Like, I actually thought I saw some positives from JKS. I also think he's just a pretty good player. Like I said, I think the good thing about this team is he doesn't even have to be the best player in this team. He can just be a good player, so it's not the same pressure. The problem for me is, like what we just said there, which is the player I've always found who's the biggest question mark in that team is Poison, because he was banging in some matches earlier in the year. And when he has a game that he's on, he looks sick. But like that style of super aggressive AWPing, that's fucking hard to make work. That is like a tightrope you are walking there. Because when it doesn't work, like you say, if I get 5 kills and I'm the primary AWPing all the time, aggressively, that means I'm giving away AWPs, or I'm making you save AWPs, or I'm fucking giving up sights easily. Like, there's a reason why AWPers have to be like, they have to be really responsible with their life, because that gun basically, it doesn't pay for itself unless you keep it. So as a result, like, that's the worst player on your team to be shitting the bed, sort of. So I have my questions about where he still fits in the mix. I feel like he's the player they have to develop more, because now that Obo has gone, the rest of them are all established players now. So Poison's got to step it up, because otherwise, like, I don't know what his contract length is, but he'll be the guy people are looking at next if he has issues, because the rest of them look pretty good.
Interestingly enough, this was a tournament where OG were able, so we can sort of talk a bit about Na'Vi here as well, because their two stories are inextricably linked. This was one where OG finally sort of turned up and beat a lot of the hoodoo that's been around that team, because, you know, typically if you know anything about OG, if you sit down to watch OG, you know you're in for 3 maps, probably in overtime, and probably them throwing it on the last map 16-14. That seems to be the way it fucking goes. Like, OG fans, it's hard. So that wasn't happening here, and they played Na'Vi twice. And this was a Na'Vi with like Simple's form. It's creeping back, and he's looking dangerous again. He's top fragging. Obviously, Na'Vi have had the issues with a COVID outbreak potentially in their ranks with Perfecto, so I wasn't expecting too much. Perfecto was still symptomatic apparently on the first day of games and was still struggling a little bit. But regardless, you beat what's in front of you, and OG did it pretty handily. You know, the first time they played them, they beat them 2-1. Second time, they actually did a 2-0. Fantastic. And then as well, they beat Evil Geniuses relatively comfortably, as comfortable as OG ever seems to beat anyone. You know, they had a couple of maps, and then the 16-14 went their way for a change on Overpass. Everyone breathing a sigh of relief. So I wanted to pick your brains, because obviously, you know, OG have been one of those projects that they've been getting better and better, but the rate at which they're getting better has been a little bit too slow for a lot of fans, for a lot of supporters, and just in general, if you want to have that high impact in international Counter-Strike. We did say if they didn't get their shit together, they probably were going to have to look at a roster change. Looks like they've got the shit together.
This is going to go down, in my opinion, in history, like that Mouse Sports move last year, where, again, quality players could come together nicely, but best case scenario, you're just like the 10th best team. And you keep whiling away, and you keep trying stuff. It doesn't work. But when you get the right pieces in the right order, when something changes, you can just shoot up the rankings. Like you see now, I think they're like number 5, number 6 in the world or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if you look at the form they've had against all European competition the last 3 months, realistically, when you look at Flashpoint, yeah, there's Big, yeah, there's Fnatic, yeah, there's Cloud9 maybe, but OG should be looking for that trophy. They should be looking for that 500k, and if they can, what a way to sort of like show that this lineup can make it, that they don't need a big roster change, because I think it's never going to get better than it is now. Like, they look like they've finally turned the corner. Like we're saying, like, they don't lose the close games. That sometimes they're the ones inflicted that on the opponent. So the thing that's different, in my opinion, about the Mouse case is, at least in Mouse, they were working with like players you were unsure of. A bunch of these players are actually established players. Like, actually, amazingly, the guy who's the most consistent is the guy who was the revelation. It's Man2. He basically never plays bad, right? So for me, I will say as well, the reason why I believe these teams, OG now, Mouse last year, the reason they can be these crazy outliers that go from months and months and months of like mediocrity or like almost there but not making it. Well, let's be real. This is another thing that establishes LXCB. Like, because Carrigan is a fucking game changer, isn't it? We know that Carrigan could do something different in month 9 that he didn't do in month 1. Normal IGL can't. He's bashed his head against the wall after 6 months. So in my opinion, LXCB's always been pretty good, but like he's now showing again. Like if I'm those Ents players, would you grow the fuck up and just admit it finally? Look what he's doing. He's got 0 finished players in this team. He's even got a bunch of players you would have thought sucked. NBK. Fucking Issa that hasn't done out shit in ages, years and years, but a few best of ones. If he can take players like that, who in theory are worse than the Alus and Sergeys of the world on paper, and he can outperform you, and he can get results like this, like he was in the finals of the IEM, now he's going to be in like the playoffs of this tournament. I expect him to have a very strong finish in Flashpoint. You've got to give it up to LXCB. Like this guy's done a fabulous job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got it there for you, Sam, if you want to bring it up. I mean, steadily climbing up the rankings since, and that I suppose is the sign of a good team. They've very rarely gone backwards and, a few aberrations, but they're up to 7th in the world right now. And like you said, doing it with a roster of names that weren't household names. And actually, the one household name, the one person you would say is a household name, or maybe the exception of Valda, is the guy that a lot of people were calling to be cut because, NBK is a guy that he can be a swingy player and the role he plays doesn't necessarily lend himself to, getting a lot of
take a piss quickly.
Oh dear, yeah.
Just wax lyrical for a minute.
No, perfect. You have a massive slash, mate. I'm gonna that means me and Sam can talk about the upcoming bot major and slip that in.
Nice. Some promo.
So basically, the bot major's coming up, guys. I know a lot of you follow what we do. So we have a group of people called the No Majors Club. It started as a joke a few major tournaments ago, basically a way to sit and broadcast the streams and just do a podcast-style environment, which leads to people getting super upset and tweeting things like, this guy's just talking about beans, talk about the game, and it's all of my mates, and we're bringing in new people all the time and growing all the time. Well, there is no major this time around, so we're all in the No Majors Club. So we decided what we would do for the community, Sam, me, my mate Thomas, who you guys don't know, but he does a lot of the graphic design and stuff. And just just all of us that are in the NMC, basically, on some level, as well as other people. I'm missing out a ton.
Davis,
like
SEO,
Davis, Jakey.
Jakey's working, so fuck Jake. He ain't the fuck all, so he's off the list.
Fuck Jakey,
scumbag, taking money instead. Fucking scumbag.
Fuck you, Jokey. Fuck you, I call him Jokey there. Whatever.
Jokey, you big Jokey, man.
Yeah, but anyway, so on
Griff
the 9th
as well, Griff. Yeah.
Shout out to Griff, obviously. So on the 9th, we're gonna basically do a broadcast, and it's gonna be a tournament with bots playing. And so what we've done is it'll go live after Flashpoint approximately. What we've done is we've created sort of a database of statistics for bot interpretations of their real life counterparts. So all the players are different, all the players are differently skilled, and we're going to simulate the games live while we do the podcast style stuff from the No Majors Club. So we're going to cram it into a week by doing
it might be 8 days, but 7 to 8. We might have an extra day for the grand final, maybe. We'll see. I'm seeing how much I can squeeze.
It's going to be a good event. I mean, like Thomas has been working on the graphics. We got stingers and videos. Sam's been making some ancillary content, some little comedy stuff we're going to show, so it's not just going to be bot games all day. We're going to try and make it feel as much like a major as we possibly can with a budget of a few grand. So I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be live on the 9th, approximately 4 p.m, 5 p.m. UK time, depending on what's going on with Flashpoint, but we're thinking about 4 p.m. UK time, and then we're just going to hope that it's entertaining, the joke doesn't wear thin, and everyone's involved. Sadakist says he's going to be there making his casting comeback. So
okay, hope he's going to go 100%.
Yeah.
Listen, if you come back, you have to take it on the chin, mate. Come on.
Yeah.
Also, I heard like there was actually a mix-up, and Fallen and all those guys tried to enter. And it's like it's not that kind of bot major.
Sorry, mate, you got no RMR points, unfortunately. I've just checked the scale.
Oh, there you go. Right.
Well, that was the other thing we did. We had to wait for the RMR events to finish, so we knew what teams to simulate. So
the only team that's changed is I've removed the 100 Thieves because the team's been disassembled, and I've put in Cloud9's new roster. Because
wait, is the point that you actually also like?
Yeah, it's the same. I've seeded all the teams, same system.
It's a simulation.
Yeah.
Right, I see.
Yeah, it's going to run like ostensibly an actual event. The players' names are going to be on there. We got fucking like graphics coming up telling you their stats, telling you what they but like the stats we program them as bots. So like top trump cards.
See. So people can argue, it's like when Madden comes out, should this guy be a 97?
Exactly. Yeah,
that's a good angle.
Yeah, so hopefully if you're not too tired after working some Flashpoint events, you get a drop in, for a few days.
A week off before the playoffs, like a period of time. So if it's running during that period of time, maybe I can even just go on one of those days, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, obviously more than welcome. Monty's more than welcome. I'm reaching out to everyone because, like I've always said, I think a major should be a celebration of everything Counter-Strike. Even a fake major, essentially. So that's the bot major. That's going to be starting on the 9th. We'll appreciate all your support. We got real sponsors for it, like legitimate sponsors. I've sent the paperwork back, so we should have one of them confirmed tomorrow. We'll do an announcement on Twitter. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we want to have you there. So please join.
And welcome Forza sponsoring the bot.
Yeah, can you imagine? So anyway, right, let's just do one more bit. Let's talk about Vitality because I don't want to go through without talking about them. We talked about them a little bit earlier.
Oh, man, I love this topic because here's the thing: more vindication. The only team who really did use a 6th man, aside from Enzo had Yamp because of the major thing, wasn't Astralis. The joke is this, mate. Here's the angle people didn't realize because they're too thick. Is imagine being Bobski, sitting like the rest of us watching Astralis on stream, then watching Vitality play in the same tournament, using a real 6th man, inserting him in the game and going, imagine if my team wasn't just an entire facade and I was actually a 6th man. Like, that's fucking mental, mate.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing people don't get. Notice all my criticism of Astralis essentially boils down to they're fucking someone over in the equation. It isn't just I don't like them. They're always fucking someone.
Yeah, so how this worked was they really did use the 6th man in the sort of way you would expect of an actual sports team, in the sense that for some maps they went with a Nivera, the Belgian player that they brought in. On other maps, they went with Masuta. There was even I think when they played big, they actually had both Nivera and Masuta in. And
Shocks, I think, swapped that one.
Yeah, and they swapped Shocks out on Inferno.
Shocks even made a mad tweet where, like, just because he's such a weird guy, isn't he? Like, he is amiable, but he's weird. Like, he was like something like, "I cannot believe I am watching the game of my team." Some mad comment, like some philosophical angle. Because, like, Shocks, you're not in the game. You're being subbed out, mate. We get it. Like, we get the premise. You're the one that's blown the mind of, and you're in the team.
Yeah. So,
how can I not be in the server? This is my team.
But now. A lot of people, when it was announced, thought it was a stunt and that essentially it was a sort of pleasant way, to get Masuta out the team. That was the assumption of what was going on.
Classic banter, of course.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what it's like with the French teams as well.
Course,
it is like fucking Game of Thrones in that motherfucker.
Most backstabbing motherfuckers of all time.
Oh,
and the worst thing is, if people don't know, they really do have like the way that like upper class people backstab each other. Because I would talk to people, right, at events, and I would see these guys in the bar. They'd go up, and for example, the ones that hated existence, they'd go up, they'd give him the kiss on both cheeks. They'd say, "How are you doing? You should have some wine with us. How is your team doing anyway?" And I would say to one of the other ones in the back, "I thought they fucking hated you." Oh, they do. They're fucking spicy.
Oh, they do.
I'm like, what is this shit? You're all just fake as fuck. This is unreal.
Yeah, I like like I said, the last roster upheaval in the French scene, the fucking garlic wedding, as I call it, was absolutely fucking unreal.
And some straight Jesus at the Last Supper stuff like, "And the one who takes the last drink of my wine, he shall betray me." It's like, fucking just be honest and say you want him kicked for fuck's sake.
I know. So So mental, innit? But anyway, so that was the assumption, and it's not without foundation that might have been a thing that happened. But actually, they did use the 6-man, and what's incredible here is they could have fell flat on their face here and been ridiculed, and we could be saying, like, 6-man rosters are silly and bollocks, like I did on my new Certo podcast, First to 16 with Davey. It's a 16-minute breakdown of Counter-Strike. You should go check it out. But me and him are both of the mind that, honestly, a lot of it is just, like, posturing. But it worked. They beat complexity. They beat big twice, you know, and a well-seeded now moving forward. And I think right now, because we've got IEM Beijing Europe going on, I think that's never gonna. That's always gonna. Yeah, it's always gonna be funny to me. Yeah, I know. I think as well. They just won their opening game there as well. So things are working, you know, for them here. So I wanted to get your pick. I mean, does this sort of add further ridicule to the Astralis deluge of bullshit?
It just shows that Astralis are absolute liars. Think it through, guys. When was it that they originally signed Esatag? I believe it was like right around the time of the FPX deal, right? So I'm going to guess that was what, April? Maybe around that time?
Yeah.
So since April, now they couldn't use Esatag initially because he still was under contract. So then they got Snappy and Yogi, and then they got Bobsky afterwards. So how many players do they need before they need a real rotation? By the way, there never was a real rotation. I'm like, fucking that Tito Ortiz thing. There was no marriage. There never was a real rotation, was there? Like, if there was, why did they only suspiciously rotate people in when they couldn't get Esatag out of his contract, and then 2 players said they were medically burned out and left the team? It's almost like they were just replacing those players, you daft fucking cunts. Then when they had those players back, instantly reinsert them in the lineup. And now who plays for Astralis? The original fucking 5. Like they always planned to. Like Device even told you in an interview, where it's one of the few truthful things I believe he said in that interview, because essentially he didn't have to lie about Astralis, although he indirectly did, but he's not a smart man. He's just a fucking pro player in Counter-Strike. It's about all you can expect. So, no, the key thing for me is this. I still think the general point does stand. But I think what they've found in Vitality is they're not just going with, like, we're just throwing in a 6-man. Notice they didn't say silly stuff in Vitality, Rich, like, and we'll all be able to play all the maps and all the roles. No, as we've pointed out here, they were very, very specific about who they're going to replace. So obviously, Masute is the least experienced player. Of course, I'd want, like, fucking Nivera coming in and open on that map. Like, why wouldn't I? That's exactly where he can go off. Now, all of a sudden, the Dust 2, that's so dangerous for so many people, it's looking banging. Then, on some maps, we all know Shocks doesn't always deliver. He isn't always up to the mustard of what you want from Shocks. So now, I would even say it's a clever way to potentially motivate Shocks, make him fight for his spot again. Like, I actually think the way the X-Stars coach guys using it, it's very different from what other people would think. It's not the traditional 6-man rotation. It's not you're competing for the last spot. It's, I'm going to use you on these maps. Also, you're inexperienced, so I'm going to bed you in this way, and we're going to see what you can do here. And then we go from that. Like, that, I think their team also was one of the few in the world that it made sense to do it with. Because think about it. The one thing they lacked across players not called Ziwu was fucking firepower. So let's bring in a hot young talent. But instead of just chucking him in the lineup to die a death of every MIBR bloody player, let's slowly integrate him. Let's tell him, you know what, dude? Don't worry about the rest. Just learn Dust 2 and Inferno. You get those 2 down, then we'll see what happens after that. That's a clever way to do it. Like, if I was going to do it, that's like, might not be what I'd have thought of, but I can see the logic to it. There's a methodology there.
I actually think in World Counter-Strike right now, probably the best, if you wanted to look at a model of what CS coaches should be up to, obviously there's other people you can name in this, but French scene are probably quite ahead.
They got 2 of the most legit, mate.
Yeah.
That's why the whole scene transformed after those fallow years.
Yeah. So it's actually, you know, might be a good case study, because I really rate Malek, obviously, but I mean, what's happening here is
I've heard they gave a lot of control to the coaches, which is what they never had before.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Okay, so there it is. It's all wrapped up. Now we do our viewer questions. For those who don't know, if you give $50 or more on our Patreon page, you can ask us a question. It can be about anything. We would appreciate if you would stop asking mental questions that are going to get my channel banned. Just putting that out there. But of course, we will do our level best to answer the questions, even if they're crazy and we're walking a tightrope, you know, because who really knows what's going on with Twitch bans. There was a bunch of people banned last night for pun usernames. that they've had for 8 years,
Mate,
essentially their entire brand. So,
I'll just do a very small call out. That's not even a big deal, but if you know the industry, you'll know how bang on righteous this is. You know, one thing that's a pet peeve of mine, Rich, I know it's one of yours as well, which is where people are experts, like they're very good in their job or they do have experience. But then, as always, this is always what happens in esports, they have to overreach their bounds and they have to be an expert on every topic. And they have to know everything and they have to be the ultimate insider. So one of the guys who plays this role is that guy who used to be called like Melixia or whatever for CLG. He's called Devin Nash, right? You might see him on some of the big streams. And one of the things he actually does a very good job with usually is he does videos, I think, on his stream, because I assume that I see him on YouTube.
Yeah, he talks about the business side of it.
He basically tries to explain, like, here's what you guys don't get, for example, about how streamers get contracts or whatever, or how they make money, or here's why your favorite team signed this person, not this one. He does a good job of relaying it to the plebs, right? But I saw he was himself speaking out about these DMCAs. And it's like, mate, that is ridiculous, because the other thing about his angle, and it's very easy to do this if you're the expert and they're the pleb, is you're always above everyone and you're the only one who sees the big picture. Everyone else is caught in their little maze and you can see it all. You're like fucking...
Not going to lie, you have just described me. Like,
of course. So... Yeah, but the difference is we usually bang on when we do it, so fuck this guy. So, you know, this guy, though... The idea he would call out like, oh, it's pretty disgrace that they're doing these DMCAs. Mate, if this didn't affect you, because you're a streamer, you'd be making the video that was like your against the grain take would be. But here's why Twitch as a business has to do that, because of how the legal system works with how DMCAs work. You'd be explaining it condescendingly about how it was a good thing. Like those same fucks who spent the last 4 years telling us, bro, it's just a private company. They can ban anyone they want, even while acting under the Safe Harbor Act as though they actually are. Like, give me a break, mate. It's like, you can't always have the edgy take. So, like, that angle, like, as far as I can tell, everyone should be against this fucking Twitch angle because there's no side to it. And it's also, though, by the way, one area where everyone who cheered on the monopoly of Twitch, you are the most feckless wanker ever. How can you simultaneously hate Amazon and Jeff Bezos, but then when he puts on a fucking different mask of like, hey, I am PogChamp now, you're like, what the hell? That's going to be a clip. What the hell? Now I am. Yeah. Oh, that guy. Mate, it's where that I only know that guy, but I don't know fighting games. So I only know that guy from when he was like Slasher's mate, and he was just like,
fucking hell.
That can be in the water as well. Take all the shit.
I am PogChamp.
You never thought you'd hear me say those words, did you?
I can't. I am PogChamp now, Jeff.
I am the PogChamp now.
Mental. Right, anyway.
A Bezos Pog, and it's... I bet he's done that once in his life. Probably when the stock price went like... Probably when the coronavirus hit.
Yeah, and he made billions. Yeah, probably then.
Amazon Prime, order everything now. Yeah, and he was like... like some fucking anime villain or something like that. Can't at the end of Neon Genesis Evangelion.
And now you're bringing Evangelion to the fucking tip. Right, anyway. So, yeah, that wasn't even a question. That was just...
I thought, didn't you?
Yeah, well, yeah. Also, on that, I appreciate Devin Nash's insight and
yeah, the other videos are good. Yeah, just call him out for being a cunt every now and then.
Yeah, good. Well,
just need to remind everyone that they are a cunt on some base level, and I'm watching and know that I am keeping count.
So, first question: Quasar Fox said, "If you had a persona, what would it be?"
Come on, I'd probably just. Well, here's the thing. Technically. Well, if you just have to be an animal, the obvious joke is I'd be Dorsia. I'd be like crying inside his belly.
Why is that an obvious joke, you man?
Animal, isn't he?
What the fuck?
I don't co-sign this at all. The idea you're just walking around in a Dorsia suit as well.
It's obvious.
Even though we made all those points, and it is intensely cruel that everyone made memes out of essentially the guy's like obvious like borderline alcoholism and like overweight nature. Like that's not really actually like a funny meme. Is it? I'm bringing it back. But I'll say this: one thing I do actually like about Dorsia, because I've met him and talked to him even. Like,
yeah, he's a cool guy.
I don't
know why you reckon him.
He doesn't give a fuck about it, guys. Like, he actually thinks it's funny, basically. Like, he doesn't give a fuck that anyone's making these memes. He actually doesn't on some.
No, he loves XGod. He loves XCOD. It was like when you did that whole bit where it was going, the joke is he's physically repulsive. you remember your other greatest hits on Dosia, who you supposedly like, right? Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, he fully embraces it. He's a fucking cool guy. I like him. So, yeah, I don't co-sign any of that.
Messy human, though.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not around 24/7. The signs aren't good. You know, like, yeah, like, I mean, you know, he was the guy, like, wogging out every time, like, like every time the game has a tech pause. Like, obviously, there's something not right.
See that mental one where he just goes like,
yeah, I know.
Like, what even is that?
No, he's a legend. Anyway, so I'll say I don't need
something more reasonable than that.
Well,
what animal would you be into?
I'm no, hang on. No, not
Persona.
Yeah, but like just to dress up in that, like a mascot at a sports game. You know, I like bears. That's also going to be took out of context, given that a bear is a large, bearded, homosexual gentleman. But you know, I think bears.
What's your persona, though, Richard? There you go.
So no, but like obviously, you know, I do like bears in general in nature, because like, especially, you know, them brown bears, because they're just sort of like big dogs, like just giant killer dogs, you know, and like you never know what you're gonna get. It's either gonna like just claw you to death, or it's just gonna sit down next to you while you're fishing and just be like, all right, mate, you know. And you see all them videos like of people in Russia and stuff, and they're just like high-fiving a fucking grizzly bear as it's walking past or whatever. So yeah, I like bears. I think bears are sound. I think they're misunderstood. You know, there's been a lot of rumors.
It's like that classic video. Have you ever seen it? Where it's real as well, where like Khabib Nurmagomedov is actually wrestling a bear as a child. Yeah. Like, Nate, how is some guy, you know, Americans are always going like, because listen, it is a brutal sport, wrestling, but Americans are always going, bloody hell, that high school wrestling, weight cuts. It's like, mate, he had top position on a fucking bear. He's a little kid. When I was a little kid, I was doing that thing on the edge of the pool, like dipping my toe in. It's too cold. And then go, jump in. And I was going, I don't want it. I'll go in slowly. They're just going, tell you what, this bear's going to get fucking mounted on you and shit all over. Like, yes, that's fucking unreal.
Yeah, no. So, next question from the same dude. Quasar Fox. I have a friend who loves League of Legends and thinks Riot is a great company solely on the basis they make good games. As a regular viewer of this show, I, of course, know better. Could you give me a few arguments on the most terrible things Riot have done or doing so I can explain to my friend how horrible they are? By the way, just so you know this, I literally have a playlist on my YouTube channel, which if you don't subscribe to it, go now. Richard Lewis. I literally have a playlist. It's about 40 or 50 videos long, detailing the complete history of every unethical thing Riot have done. Why do you think whether or not you liked me was an interview question for a period of time to be employed? But I think, first of all, you simply have to go look at how the game was founded. You know, you can ignore the fact that basically a guy who was an expert in marketing and a guy who was an expert in banking, international banking, met with a fucking deranged guy who wanted to basically control people's behavior on the internet, and then they went to a Chinese mega corporation using all of their ties, you know, and got basically a game funded with such exorbitant funding. They were able to sort of pioneer the freemium model from the East in the West, but then also in their initial
constantly saying the mantra, we're just a little tiny startup, you can't expect anything to be good, while like essentially playing the game on easy mode. Yeah.
And then you know what they did initially. Why, you might ask, why does the Dota community hate them? The way they aggressively, because remember it was a Dota clone and they were trying to fill the vacuum of there not being a sequel to Dota and Dota being a bit opaque in how to use it because it was a mod. So what they did is they basically were running attack ads on a mod. It was absolutely crazy stuff. Go look at some of the early ads.
You just memory hold that entire fucking like forum site or whatever. That was like the
Dota
history of the fucking community or whatever.
Yeah, they went and basically bribed a dude called Pendragon and basically said, like, come join Riot Games, we'll hire you, but you have to get rid of the Dota All-Stars forum. This was the go-to community forums for anything to do with Dota, for, you know, guides, you know, discussion, teaming up, you know, that's how we all communicated back then, forums. Ideas, you could suggest ideas to IceFrog, and well, that might not even have been the IceFrog era, but to the developers at the time, and say, hey, this is my idea for a hero. Do you like it conceptually? Could you put it in the game? And what Riot did was essentially to force the Dota community to accept their at that time, inferior product, because 2009 League of Legends was absolute garbage, by the way. It was absolute trash. Yes. What they did was they had him essentially destroy, literally memory hole, those forums, and actually mined the suggestions for heroes from the forum that they memory holed, right? So, including Timo, which came from there. So what they did is when you logged on one day, if you were a Dota fan, haha, gonna go to Dota All-Stars, it linked you to a download link for the League of Legends client. So that's before.
If they started that way, do you think it got better afterwards, guys, when they got money and power?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. That was how they started. That was them, by the way. The same people they essentially bribed everyone in the scene, like, to sort of come on board. You know, they were out there acting super friendly. You know, oh, come on board. We'll give you drops and free skins and skins for your community, and just promote us and just promote us and just promote us. And then obviously down the road, when the game was the biggest PC game in the world, they just fucked over every partner along the way. Everyone along the way.
I always thought the Total Biscuit one's a classic one, and I'm not playing on the fact that he is now sadly deceased. If people don't know, when Total Biscuit was a very big streamer, because he had massive mainstream gaming appeal, where like he was one of the go-to channels that you went to for the real, when he promoted the ever-loving fuck out of League of Legends, they said if you got a certain number of it, was it like referrals or something, that you would get to design a champion. Instead, they just gave him that thing where like the health potion makes it into a biscuit instead. They never gave him the champion. They never let him do it.
And that came after loads of wrangling. Now, if I remember rightly, when John was, you know, very ill, finally they sort of squashed that beef, and basically he sort of gave it away to another kid via, it might have been the Make-A-Wish Foundation or whatever. It's a long time ago. I don't really remember the details, but basically he signed away and said, I don't give a fuck about it now. It's way too late. And but yeah, basically what they did is they used him because he killed it on referrals. He smashed the target. You know, he was getting millions of views on his YouTube for when he was reviewing mainstream games. He was the pioneering game critic, you understand, on YouTube. He was the guy that blew that up for everybody. So having him on board was very, very good for them, and he gave them a fair chance. He was he used to talk about the potential of the game and everything, and they absolutely, utterly fucked him over, and then just pretended that they never fucked him over, and actually were also actively promoting this idea that he hadn't really been fucked over. They never said anything. It was badly worded. It wasn't ever practical to just let someone design a champion. Whatever they needed to say, just basically take the money and run. And this is all early years, by the way. So as Duncan says, what do you think happens when a company that morally bankrupt blows up and gets rich? And we've seen it, haven't we? Sponsorships with fucking, you know, blood debts essentially, and fucking, you know, mass systemic sexism and abuse. They are a ghastly company, and I know they're changing and going through a big cultural change right now, and they've got rid of a lot of the old guard, but some of them are still there. They have this thing inside called the D20, because it's like a D20 you use in Dungeons and Dragons, because they're all hip nerds like that, and basically they can just they just float around still taking a paycheck. Actually this is how fucked the original Riot staff were. It took Tencent coming back and buying them out of their shares to actually get to where they are now, where they're being more ethical and responsible. Fucking Tencent!
I've got two things I would say, and because the reason I'll bring these two up is if this guy just looks into these basic stories through your reporting, you won't need to know about the game. You won't need to know like who the player is that they're fucking over, or well, what does it matter that they took Korea away from the people who built Korean esports? Like that's going to be too niche and like too detailed for him. The two that I would bring up is this. So one, when they had this massive widespread sexism exposed, they instantly did exactly the PR damage control you want. They went to, we know this is a problem. We're sorry. We're going to take care of this, and we're going to proceed, right? They then did this. Through their contracts, they'd almost essentially anticipated this could happen, because they had it so that the people had to go into forced arbitration so that only the public veneer would ever be exposed. Never the actual detail, never the claims of the people, never the documents internally, rating women, talking about them, making inappropriate comments. Then later, and everyone in League of Legends denies this and forgets this detail, Rich, the fact that they didn't change a year or two later is when the story came out that they then were trying to use the lawyers of the people who were now prosecuting against them and sabotage the case. They were trying to do that to essentially, they sexually harassed people, then essentially made them work in that culture. When it was totally exposed, they pretended to do a mea culpa and then told their attack dogs, the equivalent of that fucking bald cunt that the guy in House of Cards had who did all his dirty business, take the motherfuckers down from inside. They never once had any contrition. They were trying to fuck them just for money. And by the way, the money they were going to have to pay was a big fee until you realized how many fucking women were going to have to get some of this money.
That was the thing. It was like a $10 million fine, but it was going to be shared across so many.
Exactly.
And strata, depending on how long people worked there for.
Yeah, there were so many people in it that had been harassed that they wouldn't even have gotten that much. Then the other detail is this. When Richard alludes to the blood money of the Neom deal, all I'll say is this. Look up what Neom is and some of the mainstream reporting about them. And then consider this other fact. Because again, this is where actually it's a classic example of what we started the episode with. The fatigue of hearing piecemeal elements of the story means when you hit them with the real boom shakalaka at the end, most people are tuned out already and they think they know the story. So the detail no one to this day knows, because sadly you're banned off the League of Legends subreddit. It's the ultimate aspect that shows it wasn't an accident, which is when they made the Neom deal, and it was only public pressure, including their own broadcast staff refusing to do that week's LEC show. It was only them that made them not do it. Richard was the only one who ever brought this piece of information forwards, which is that when the Riot HQ people came in, they essentially were trying to argue with the talent, like, well, maybe the way we messaged it wasn't good, but, the deal is fine. They then went on to tell the people who'd done that deal, where if you really were against it and it really was a faux pas, like they acted like rogue elements, like fucking ESEA's lie, then you'd say, I'm sorry, we're going to have to punish you or fire you or you're on. No, they essentially communicated to them, listen, we think the deal was totally fine, but maybe you just didn't communicate it to the public correctly. So essentially, internally, they doubled down again that there was no issue taking blood money. Like, if you know those two stories, what more do you need to know about what they did in the fucking game or with the players? Like, that's who they are as humans in like 2018 to 2020, guys. Like, it's mental. They're one of the most fucked companies I've ever come across in all of esports.
That's why I dedicated so much of my reporting to them, because it was like they were also a very powerful influencer, and they were literally quashing stories and telling people you wouldn't get access and all this. I mean, I went to a Riot event and basically they fucking watched me like a hawk. I went like into were trying to deny me interviews, had someone follow me around and shit. Like, it was just fucking, they're just cunts, like full up. Anyway, hope that answers your question. Thanks for the Patreon donation. Alice the Alchemist says, "Hey Rich, considering the current bar to run for president is very low, in a hypothetical scenario that if one day Joe Rogan decides to run, if he's done podcasting, who do you think would be the best running mate for him?" Well, first of all, I'll just tell you this little interesting tidbit that came across my timeline the other day. The Atlantic has already run an article saying Joe Rogan is an authoritarian and we need to watch out for him because obviously in the absence of the Orange Man, we need new villains. We'll just pick whoever's popular and can get us clicks.
That's mental, isn't it?
So yeah, that weed-smoking libertarian, Joe Rogan is
arguably one of the coolest people on the whole internet. Because despite the nonsense they write in those articles, this guy will have people from across the political spectrum. He will have people on the fringes of crazy things inside, because he's just a guy who likes cool conversations. Like, he's
nearly
actually
tanked his deal with Spotify recently over the Alex Jones broadcast.
That's another thing, right? Listen, what I've learned with Joe Rogan is, you'll notice I almost never tweet about him. He's one of those celebrities I never give an opinion on. And here's why. Because I know how easy it is when someone fucks up or you perceive them to have fucked up to go hard on them and go, they're fucking sellout bitches. But what I notice with Joe Rogan is every time he does something that triggers you, he does an episode with someone who doesn't really grill him, he lets him just talk, or like Kanye or whatever. Every time he does it, give him a he's earned a few more shots at that. That's a swing and a miss. And I tell you what, if you give him a few more swings, he'll hit a home run. And so every time I think I'm out on him, he's sold out. Like the Spotify deal, I'll admit, by the way, when I heard those episodes weren't getting transferred, I wanted to tell everyone in esports, this is why you don't sell out to big companies like ESPN, like Amazon, because they will fuck you, because that's the whole reason they bought your brand. But the fact that, as you say, he then essentially used that as leverage to, by the way, get some of the most controversial people on the internet onto Spotify's platform. That's an example why I can't judge Joe Rogan and feel like I know what it's like to be in his shoes. Because on the one hand, he's doing stuff I wouldn't do, but on the other hand, he's pulling off shit I didn't even think was possible. So there's more layers to the onion. He's one of those guys who very cleverly gives off this perception that he's just a smart, dumb guy and he maybe knows things. He's a very shrewd guy. And I think he's one of the coolest people out there. As a result, though, if you know anything about politics, I don't think he would ever run in politics for real. I think he knows it's not the business to be in.
Yeah, well, yeah, totally. But I will just say, to answer the question,
answer results. Go on, give me one.
Yeah, no, so I think you've got to give it to Eddie Bravo so he can get in and get all the declassified documents as VP, right?
That's a good one. I was going to go with the obvious angle. You got to have someone who's also got personality. You need to usually pair one crazy guy with one more reasonable guy. Joey Diaz, the obvious example. Because first of all, Joey Diaz and all of his cancelling over possible sexual misconduct, well, that's just par for the course in all the fucking politicians.
In politics, yeah, you are right.
And then secondly, he's going to get that fucking Cuban vote, isn't he? He's going to have all that. And then also, like, listen, if you think Trump's wild, I want to see an actual presidential candidate or vice president just start talking about his balls and stuff and just fucking the time he like held someone up with a machine gun or something. Like, mate, in many ways, if he could just kill the personality angle of that whole ticket, couldn't he? He'd be amazing.
Thanks for the question, Alice. Echo, can you please...
I can't do the Joey Diaz one, sadly.
Sam does a good one. Do you want to do it, Sam?
What's good, cocksuckers? Sam, I'm addressing the nation.
I oversold it. Echo says,
can you please... Go on, Sam, do it. All right, so...
No,
can I send in a tape instead?
Yeah. Do it. Send in a tape.
You can have a warm-up, you know, getting a
Pure cuntish behaviour by me. Sorry. Anyway, Echo says, can you please rank the Teletubbies in order of most to least favourite and give reasons for the rank?
I don't even remember all of them. I remember Tinky Winky, Lala,
Ho,
Dipsy.
I didn't remember Dipsy. I didn't remember Dipsy.
Yeah.
Dipsy that sounds like a fucking rapper or something.
Well, or a disease.
Hustle.
I've got a case of the Dipsy.
Diphtheria, yeah.
Yeah, I don't. That's how old I am. I'm such a boomer. I've got like Oregon Trail diseases in my brain. I don't know, mate. Because obviously, if I was watching Teletubbies, given the generation I'm from, I'd be on a fucking watch list, and rightly so. So very hard for me to even come up.
Yeah, I don't even remember after.
Who was the fucking Doyle? Who was the fucking idiot one?
I think
they're all Doyles, mate. They're all
No, I know they're all Doyles, but there's one special Doyle.
Poe, like maybe the red one. Doyle, like. Is Poe the red one?
Is it Lala? Maybe I don't know.
I'm not doing the ranking, but I am just saying there was one I didn't understand what was there because there was a lot of controversy around the Teletubbies. I know that sounds insane, but you know, such were the times we were moving into this era of insanity. Where because they used to go and just talk like that all the time, right? Like people used to say it's actually increasing like dyslexia and it's stopping kids from like engaging linguistically and it's fucking up their speech patterns and giving them speech impediments. So it needs to be took off the air because we're teaching kids how to not speak properly because obviously they had their own language. So that was a big controversy there. And obviously the worst offender in that controversy is this one I'm talking about, maybe Lala or Dipsy, I don't know. But there was one who was just a fucking Doyle. Like even
moron,
even the other Teletubbies are like, yeah, you fucking dickhead. So yeah,
Richard essentially like Dob, the episode of the fucking Teletubbies, just like a little clip. I know you get pulled off YouTube, sadly, but it'd be straight fire. Oh, you fucking Doyle, what you doing? You cunt.
But
Get
anyway,
me custard.
The fucking, I'll tell you something, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, by the way, here's a great one for you. How the Teletubbies was secretly communist indoctrination You will fucking love reading
That
up on
sounds
that,
sick.
mate.
That sounds like the thing that everyone should look up about how it
Yeah.
definitely, like, this is like, listen, George Lucas isn't good enough to write this, but I'm telling you, the fan theory that Jar Jar Binks was the real Phantom Menace is actually
Brilliant. Better than the
real
film.
story. Yeah,
Yeah,
It's much
totally.
better. It even makes sense. That's how you know George Lucas couldn't have written it.
So the basis for that theory is like they all live in a fucking commune, right? They're all equal level. The sun comes down, the glorious leader, you know, with the baby's face in it. Bia, bia, and it does like a message. And they get up, and what do? They go to work, don't they? So it's all, and then it goes into what? Then it goes into all the like symbols and semiology, like why is it the sun? And then it talks about these political parties that have used that, you know, logo. Mate, it as a rabbit hole. It's a great one. It was one of the first great rabbit holes to go down. I might even go so far as to suggest on the internet. So Teletubbies as communist propaganda. Go read up on it. Oh yeah, Tubby Custard, which by the way, Tubby Custard.
That sounds like some euphemism for cum. Come on.
Yeah, I was going to say some creepy cunt out there who unironically uses the word cummies is probably the word.
Listen, if I had to go
Tubby
rabbit hole and guess, I would have said the outrage, which they never really did because the people weren't smart enough. The outrage to me is there is almost like a creepy, like grooming element to that.
Oh,
I wasn't a fan of that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, the Tubby Custard is like collective food served up at set times by things. So there's a mad rabbit hole there if you want to go down. But anyway, I can't answer your question. It's not that it's a bad question. It's just
don't
that,
know for anything about it. Yeah.
It's like, don't ask me anything about Pokemon because it's like not my generation, homie. Anyway, Gaming Paul DK. You get hired by Valve to oversee CSGO. What is your first act? I think we talked about this last time. For me, it's just overhauling the fucking demo player.
I've got one.
It's an absolute AIDS, even with this latest update.
Obviously, I just banned Flusher. No evidence needed. There we go, cunt. I'm in charge of the IP now, mate. Only game in town, isn't it? Oh, but I was just mouse lifting my hand, kid, the keyboard. All right, then, come to Valve HQ. I'll put you in a hermetically sealed room that you've never touched any of the items. I'll recreate your setup, and you have to play 700 fucking hours of pubs. And unless you're just bashing that thing against the keyboard exactly like that over and over again, you can leave the facility, but you'll never be a pro player again.
As if he's bringing it back. Grievances from 2014, a new series with Duncan Torrance Shields, one of his 20 podcasts. Elon, you are the head of punishments and penalties at Riot. What is your first act? A lot of first acts here, I guess. Okay. I guess everyone, because of the vibe of the presidential election.
All right, I see.
Yeah, probably everyone's thinking about
what would yours be for this then?
Well, I mean, the head of punishments and penalties.
Because we're not really that into punishment things, so what would it be?
I guess you could overturn some.
Oh, true.
I mean, first of all, I would declassify all of the stuff around Incarnation.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. By the way, I'll even give you a little spoiler. And by the way, now that he's Jensen, I'm actually kind of friends with him. Like I often promote him. I will say though, because I'm legit, some of the stuff that he did behind the scenes that isn't fully known, it was fucking bang out of order. That's why it actually should be brought forward, in my opinion. But I'd also like to see, what the process was of how he got back in the scene and stuff.
And again, remember, I'm one of the journalists that actually stood up for him at the time to much derision in the community. Sure. And I published the story. It's one of the many reasons why Cloud9 let me break the story, even though I was banned from the subreddit when he joined. But I listened to his things that he did, and he was frank. I think at first he was a little bit cagey, he denied some stuff, and then he said, and I did do this and I did do this.
Okay.
But basically, like someone said that essentially he like DDoSed them, and the only evidence Riot had was that he had used like the old Skype.
He found their IP essentially and told them it, right?
And just pasted it in a chat room.
That was it. They never had any you'd need proof of packets, a DDoS, like denial of service. Yeah, they had no evidence of it. Yeah, you're right.
Yep. So for me, I mean, also
and
as well,
banned for that.
That was the final straw. That was the final straw. So I mean, he was told he would never play. He was like the number one ranked.
That is Riot to a T. Like I'll give everyone the spoiler because I've never done this before. This is the way Riot Games behaves because they were. I'll say were for the sake of being fair to you, shall I? Even though why would you deserve my charity? So let's say they were a fucking cult-like ideology that was about purity of talk, by the way. It wasn't ever about how you played. You can still fucking grieve to this day. It was about what words you said and controlling, because remember, what words you say control how you can think. So controlling the way your mind works, and you had to conform to what they decided was pure. So what they really were about is when they decide, like a religious fucking like inquisitor, just declaring you are a witch, and then they go forwards. Well, you know, when you have a witch, the joke is you're never going to have any real evidence, is there? Like famously, they used to fabricate it, or they had unfalsifiable tests. Like if he floats, he be a witch. It's like, so you have to die and be at the bottom of the ocean. I can't win, can I? So what they do is when they've decreed you're evil, they don't then go, well, is there evidence to support that? They will find evidence. So famously, if you've done some shit that's totally separate, they'll just look through every solo queue game and find all the times you were mean in text. And even though that's not what they were originally going to find you for, like a corrupt cop planting evidence, or like someone who does an illegal search but then finds drugs on you, even though they had no warrant to do so, they then bust you for that. And then idiot fans go, well, he did say a lot of things that were nasty, didn't they? And like, that's why these guys are absolute cons, because as you said, by what the punishment they gave him, that should have been one of the most open shut cases ever. They must have had hard evidence. I'd probably even need loads of testimony from believable people. Again, I believe some of the people in that case were people where it's just like people who didn't like him and they could be lying. It's just their word against his or whatever.
He was a very inflammatory player in his games, you know. But like, I mean, League of Legends will drive anyone insane and make you say all sorts of crazy shit. You know, I mean, that's like, you know, I definitely, you will not find a single angel, I don't believe. You know, even like, I'm sure even Voyboy's fucking flipped out at some point.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he has.
And that guy's like, you know, go on, say poop, Voyboy, say poop. I don't want to. You know, he's very wholesome. So
you do that. You just declassify.
Yeah, I'd declassify all of the contentious bans and just release all of the information.
Right, here's what I would do, because I care about, listen, Riot likes this as well. I care about entertainment. I care about giving the people what they want. I would literally, secretly, I wouldn't tell him because it wouldn't be funny if I told him, but you ready for this? You're going to like this, Rich. I would secretly rig the MMR on Groscore's account so that he could never drop out of Challenger. He's not even a Challenger player. But as a result, think about the best Groscore. The best Groscore is when he's in the game and he thinks he's sick at TF. But obviously, it's when he gets above, like, I think it's like Diamond or whatever it was, Masters maybe. It's when he gets to the real players. Obviously, they just shit on him, don't they? So then he goes fucking mental. Absolutely goes off on one on stream. Well, if I'm going to keep him permanently in Challenger, 24/7 matched up against the best players in all of Europe, and he's just going to meld off the fist. It'd be amazing, mate. It'd be so sick. Because if you don't know, Richard's right. The thing about Groscore that is actually brilliant is I just view him like Alan Partridge, like he's a character, like he's not a real man. Because the problem is the stuff that he pulls off, like he even plays into this insane stereotype of like an Essex lad that's got like the fucking boosted up car. Like I saw on Twitter, he was talking shit to some guy in esports who bought like a fucking sick, like, you know, like Mercedes, and he was going, dickhead, should be getting the BMW. Meanwhile, he doesn't even have one. Like, you know, like his whole angle, he's another person you can't parody, because you wouldn't be able to make a fake version of him that is as funny and entertaining as the real version. So I used to fucking love it when he was putting out those Snapchats and all the fucking shit. And mate, it's that one. Go look it up on YouTube. I cried laughing. Like, I actually would even save this and just get high and watch it. It's the one where he's trying to warn people about scams. And on Instagram, you know, those ads come up. He's bought a watch from China where he's bought it for something mental like $30. And he thinks it's like one of those super sick, like, you know, like a fishing level one with like amazing shit. But when it comes, it even had like in small print, he just didn't read it. It was just a decal. It was just a and he absolutely mouths off the. And the best thing is, he thinks he's informing you not to get tricked while he's been absolutely taken for a fool. It's amazing.
He went so crazy over that.
So good. As well, watch would never be like $30 or whatever.
Mate, he went so fucking crazy over that, and it's just the beauty of it. Like, he comes up, right? PSA, yeah, right. It was too. Well, that's why, honestly, mate, he's so out of control.
It's
that
so
fella.
good, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, he's amazing. He is amazing. Right, next, we've got so many questions here, by the way, mate. So
all right, fucking hell, let's go then.
Yeah. Regavic on Steam was opening up BTN to viewer questions a mistake. I don't think so. I think some of the best content we get is actually being able to go down off on tangents. And obviously, the good thing about doing tangents is creatively, if someone sort of offers you a question, you might get to somewhere mentally you weren't going to necessarily go by yourself. So yeah, I like the viewer questions. I think
reframe it. Reading out viewer questions without first checking them was a mistake. We have learned that. That was definitely a mistake.
Yeah, no joke with that. No joke with that. Right. So thanks for that, Reykjavik. Res Chi, if you guys could breed a hybrid animal of any,
So many ridiculous questions. I know.
If you guys could breed a hybrid animal of any two types, what would you choose? And then they'll be fighting against each other to the death. So I guess we have to do one each. Listen, I don't know, mate. What about like some giant hulking bear porcupine combination? That's got to be savage, right?
I was thinking like a gorilla crocodile, mate. Crocodile head on a fucking gorilla.
Crocodile?
Oh, imagine.
So what? It's got like a crocodile's head.
Crocodile's head with the jaw strength and the death roll, but it's a gorilla and he could just run about with it.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. That is like. I mean,
what
I'm
about
still
breeding Black Widow spider with a beagle. So everyone loves it. They're running up, just petting it, just killing you with poison. Oh, he's so cute. Oh, he's licking you. Please stop. I'm dying. Please. Be amazing.
It is going to get smashed to pieces by
the crocodile.
The bearapine and the crocodile.
Like. Die though.
They might actually. They might.
It's a duel.
So there you go. I hope that answers your question. Lonnie, this is a shout out, not a question. Mert, sell your fucking PlayStation. So, all right, mate. Definitely sell your fucking PlayStation out there. First sock question: if you had to be transported into any one anime you've seen as you are now, which one would you least wish to be away to? Now, this is a problem because obviously I don't watch anime on any level, so I'll just say any of them. Because I'd have to deal with being in an anime and dealing with weebs.
The obvious one is like you have to pick one of the ones, because one of the things I don't like about anime as well is like there's certain ones that try to just be art and try to tell a story or try to make something fun or something for kids. But the one angle I don't like is because it's to do with being hardcore on the internet and having no life. It just overlaps way too much with like extreme degeneracy and like really perverted sexual kinks that like don't really have any place in like cartoons, for example. Like, they're like, to me, that's a separate thing from entertainment. So I would just say any, like, I don't know the names really of the ones that are like really perverted, like fucking harem type ones, but there's one basically, if people know the one I'm on about, it's called Angel Beats. And the way that sort of like has a key ending towards the end, like I wouldn't want to be in that world, believe it or not, if you know how that story ends. Mad based fucking answer. Let's go.
Okay, that sounds fucking mental. Yeah, I mean, somebody linked me to one new. I tweeted it out. You might have seen it. That fucking prison school. You seen that? Like, fucking.
I've watched it. I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't like that either. Anyway, X-Defil regarding Richard's arm tattoo. It's pretty rad. I was wondering if any of you have tattoos we don't know about, or used to have piercings when they were younger. This is an easy one for me. I got my first tats when I was about 15, 16 on a rugby tour. I looked a bit older, so they didn't check my ID because in the UK, you're not supposed to get them until you're 18 years old. Got some shitty ones, like just up here and that. And I never had piercings because one of the few things, one of the small bit of it, well, no, not even that. My dad always said, you know, when he used to give me, well, on the few times I actually talked to him when he was in prison, he always said, don't get tattoos because they're identifying. So if you ever commit a crime, you won't be able to get away with it. So I didn't follow his advice then, but he also said never get piercings because first thing you do is just fucking rip them out of someone's face if you're having a fight.
I've always been amazed, mate. That's one thing I've always thought shows that people in real life don't fight. People who have like massive hoop earrings are out your mind. That's the first thing you do in a fight if it's a bar brawl.
Yeah,
rip your fucking ears off. There you go.
No,
I
remember my uncle telling me.
Better not have a Prince Albert because you can imagine what I'm doing with that shit.
I remember my uncle telling me a story about when a bunch of this is like obviously decades ago, bunch of punks like rocked up, like literal, you know, the Mohawks and all that, rocked up into a working men's club, you know, near the colliery where he lived. Like, they were passing through or whatever, and obviously just looking to drink and fight and, you know, and make a general nuisance of themselves. And he said, like, he had one of them chains that went from his ear to his nose, and he was mouthing off, and he just walked up and said, he just fucking ripped that out and just did him immediately, like, just fucking, yeah, he's done both in one. So, yeah, so, you know.
That brings a whole new thing to the phrase yanking your chain.
Yeah, I mean,
he wasn't just yanking his chain, was he?
Then again, I'll also say this. I one time did see him spark off a bar brawl after a darts competition because... a rival colliery.
It's just working class, this whole thing. I know. Keep going.
My life's a shambles, isn't it? So basically,
they're all drinking John Smiths, right?
Yeah, they were there doing the darts competition, and it was a rival colliery, a very heated rival colliery had come for the local darts game, and there was this one bloke, and he was trying to fucking put him off. Like, you know, rustling, like being a cunt, basically, like talking loud. And yeah, because everyone's sauced up because it's darts. You have to have 10 pints before you fucking stand on the hockey. And so my uncle's just turned around, like, while he's on the hockey.
Shot a dart in his eye or something, I'm guessing.
Just throwing a dart in his fucking face.
There we go. I think this is where he's going.
Just hanging out. I'm a child, Duncan. I'm a child.
Realize that's weird. How would you be able to guess that he would do something incredibly violent like that? Like, again, I'm just going to say, if you think that what Richard did to Lorna was harsh, like, you ain't about that life, mate. You don't even know what this life is.
Yeah, and basically it started this huge bar brawl where, you know, their darts team, this darts team, are just literally like Wild West smashing stools over each other. And I'm just sat there, I can't even remember how old I was, like fucking 14, 13, maybe. Like, So yeah, don't. That always stuck with me. Don't get piercings, but tattoos, the big taboo around them is kind of like dropped off down the years. So everyone's got tats now. So I don't think twice about it. But I only get stuff that means shit to me. I wouldn't like just go like, I know people who like tattoos so much they go like decorate me like I'm a canvas or whatever. I ain't about
Henry
that.
G.
Well, yeah, he's one of them. Yeah, he is like that, Henry. It's not for me. What about you, Sam? Have you got any tats up here?
He must have a secret tattoo or something, do you?
No tattoo. I think I had my ear pierced when I was like probably under 10. I don't know why. That was a thing during my. That was a thing during like the 2000s. My ear pierced.
Oh, you mean the old one you do when you get like a drawing pin?
No.
It was,
it was done properly. No, it was done by someone with an actual gun thing. But I had that for like a week and I took it out.
He was going through a phase. Him, David Bowie and Mick Jagger used to go out down those bars, you know. Yeah, and then, but he grew out.
Bow. Yeah. So what about you, Duncan? You never had a piercing? I'm guessing the same
I don't
shit,
have
right?
anything. I don't have tattoos. Don't have piercings. Here's the thing. I genuinely, I'm one of those people where, listen, I won't claim I'm not influenced by culture because anyone says that is a cunt. But that's one of those things that just doesn't have any connection to me. Like, I've just never seen the point in it, you know. Right. There's never been anything I wanted enough to have done. Listen, I used to love those fucking fake ones, little transfers after the bubble gum.
Yeah, they were great.
Oh, look at that. Fucking Iron Man. I had that on for 3 days. Yeah. No, but here's the thing. I won't lie. One of the moments I knew I was A, starting to get money, and B, probably did watch not only too much rap music, but also too much like NBA, is, you know, when the NBA guys really start, I believe the term is flossing on them whores, right? When they start doing that, I did look at them and I did used to realize it would be straight fire if I just rocked up at an event and I was just going, all right, boys. And I just had like 10K fucking diamond in this ear like this.
What I'd like to see is tattoo on your face and just grills, like just straight grilling, like
I think Kanye's grills sometimes look fucking sick. Like they have the proper like gold ones.
That's what I'm saying. Banging. Like, right, obviously, when you talk about grills, you think about like how, you know, the bad examples, like, you know, but like actually, I think Kanye is like he made the case for me that grills can look sick as fuck.
Here's the thing, though, in the UK, guys, it means something totally different to say you got Bear Grylls.
Yeah, it does, mate. So. Anyway, next question. Watch Doge with Forza determined to give the Houston Astros and the New England Patriots a run for their money as the biggest cheaters in modern sports. How would you compare Forza to CS cheaters from the past?
Amateurs, surely, mate. There used to be some really bad shit. Like, we made this point before. The German scene was fucking ridiculous. Like, come on.
I've always thought about there was the Romanian guys, Myrmidoni or whatever the fuck they were called, from the Myrmidon, which I think is like isn't it like a type of soldier in ancient
It was
Greece.
like, wasn't it sort of like a special sort of fighter back in? I believe it was the ones that were with Achilles or something in like the Trojan War or something.
Yeah, maybe.
That's right. Everyone could just suck my dick. That I can just pull that from the memory bank. So get the fuck out of my face from antiquity, bitch.
Yeah, you go. Apparently, you are right. Well done.
There you go. I just fuck around with antiquity.
Yeah.
I'm like Boris Johnson. Don't clip that.
Are you?
The good way, I meant, obviously.
Yeah, loads of good.
Don't clip that either.
Loads of examples. That's staying in. Right, anyway, yeah, there was this Romanian team called Myrmidoni, basically, and there wasn't a dirty trick they wouldn't use in the book. This is in source. It was unreal. If one of your demos had like one tick of data missing, they had some fucking like goblin that just used to sit in a room, sweating, stinking, just watching every second of every demo. If ever anything glitched out on a source demo, happened more often than you would think, because source was a bag of shit on a coding level, they would be like, right, yep, look, the glitch, you've glitched. It must be a complete demo, so we win. They won more games by default than I've ever fucking
most boggy
seen.
games of all time, for fuck's sake, as well.
Right. And on top of that, they were fucking dodge, mate. You never saw them at no lands, you know what I mean? So it was like, those guys were like they're still ingrained in my memory from a scene that hasn't existed for fucking 6 years. So at the end of the day, you know, it's like that they were bad. Like Forza they're just bad from a PR perspective, and Bellends, and you know, this latest thing is like common or garden cheating, really. Like, so
you have to realise Richard so imprinted them on his brain that if he even just happened to see one walking down the street, it'd be like that scene in the fucking Marathon Man where he sees like Joseph Mengele or whatever, just like on the street, like, it's him,
Yeah.
and that guy like, starts chasing him.
The Vice Angel.
Not a straight fire reference.
Yeah, great movie too. Guran, is there a way to add a statistic to say HLTV statistics that focuses on how players help each other, a way to show team play?
I mean, the problem with that is team play is sort of an intangible thing, isn't it? So by definition, I don't think you maybe could do that.
You could maybe do something like how often the player gets traded after he dies. So how often he dies for someone else to get a kill.
Like, for the longest time, the wisdom was assists would do that. And, of course, assists in Counter-Strike are meaningless. You know, you can do, like, 98 damage to someone, you know, narrowly lose a gun duel, and some dickhead can, like, launch a HE grenade, not even thinking about it. One that's probably a bad HE grenade, and it bounces and kills a guy, and they get a kill, and you just get an assist, you know, and there's all sorts of permeables of that. It's
apparently,
terrible stuff.
Kill assist is already exists, and apparently that's similar to what we just described.
Yeah. So there is that. That's like where it's overall all of the. But I don't think it's really what this guy's talking about. I think this guy's talking more about, you know, not the stuff we can measure, like flashes and damage assists and all that stuff, but actually like positioning, let's say, and stuff like that. So it's pretty hard to do in Counter-Strike, unfortunately, but you have dialed in on something, and that is that, well, first of all, it's such a complex game that not everything's going to be statistically representative. There are a number of intangibles that you must know and understand the game about, you know, to discuss via the eye test. But also, as well, there are some incredible skills that cannot be quantified in any sort of realistic way that we all know great players have. So this is why expertise is important. So sorry if that doesn't answer your question, but we gave it a go. Chingu, do you think Nico's time on Mouse Sports has traumatized him into only having star big players on FaZe? I have just realized now at the end, we didn't talk about G2 at all. We'll
go on the next one.
Yeah, I suppose we'll wait for it, because Nico did pop off and was amazing.
Yeah, he was fucking sick.
So we got so waylaid on calling Nico a cunt for 30 minutes. We actually didn't talk about what a good player he was.
There's almost a lesson in there, isn't there? But if you want people to be able to talk about your player primarily, just make that do your talking for you.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, I like a parable. But listen, I think I think the time.
Ironically, Nico is the only person that actually Jerry should be recommended. The Boy Who Cried Wolf too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's so much traumatized him, but I think it's definitely sort of fed into his worst personality aspects, in the sense that he played on a team where people had not enough capital.
He was never to blame
through their skills. Yeah, so he got to do everything he wanted to do, and got all of the praise from the community from being the best thing about that team and dragging those guys through games. And it was all provable that he was doing that.
Totally true.
So you couldn't, you know, when they called it Nico Sports, I know all of his teammates hated it, but that's the truest meme I think that there's ever been in Counter-Strike, frankly.
Legit as fuck.
Yeah, so when
I'm
you
sure
have that...
it did ruin him to some degree. Let's be real. His first really big team, wasn't it?
I mean, trying to take an empathetic, slot on it, you probably don't realise that, like, he did have to work his way into the Mouse Sports team. He was in and out as a sub. People weren't too sure what he was going to take to it, and then obviously held back to his contract when he wanted out. So there was some fuckery afoot there, and some tenseness. But honestly, what it did was basically sort of feed the ego beast inside of him, and now it's too big to be killed by any conventional means, it seems. So his ego's out of control, and I don't see when he's going to have the fall, especially now in G2, where his mindset's going to be challenged. So it's not so much traumatized him, but I think it is the root of a lot of his problems. Carve, with the upcoming release of Football Manager 21, when we'll fancy the inevitable network game with D-Man, featuring rising star and tempestuous Brazilian manager Ricardo Carvalho. Now, I will say this. I've seen the new Football Manager. And I am going to, over Christmas, finish off the Ricardo Castro save. We're gonna try and win a trophy with Charlton. Now I actually do sound like D-Man. Look at your eyes glazing over here, don't like you absolutely. You think what a sad cunt, right? But anyway,
I can't lie. I did spend a ridiculous amount of time on like Championship Manager 93 or whatever. Like I probably put the thousands of hours in that. That's also why. This is why I learned a long time ago. I always stayed away from MMORPGs, any games. Because I know that they are the ultimate time sink. The ultimate, you aren't doing anything. You're just sinking time in that shit.
In about 93, I think that it was the first time. It was either 93 or 94, but I think 93. That was when they released the Football Manager, Championship Manager, as it was back then, I should say, Italia, right? And that was the fucking bomb because essentially you could just buy any foreign. That was when Serie A was the best league in the world.
Yeah, and it's British TV for free.
Yeah. And you could essentially buy the league rule was you could have 3 foreigners, and so you could essentially buy anyone you want. The game had no limits,
like Maradona and all that shit.
Mate, I had a Lazio team, right? Because I used to start with Lazio a bit because Gascoigne was there. Paul Gascoigne was there.
Right? Yeah, good one.
So I had a Lazio team with Paul Gascoigne in midfield. Like Eric Cantona before he'd even blown up. Like
he was from Marseille.
Yeah. No, I think he'd just gone to Leeds in the game.
Right, okay.
Right, Eric Cantona and Les Ferdinand, 26-year-old, like whatever it was, vintage QPR Les Ferdinand.
Exactly, QPR Les Ferdinand was a fucking banger. Like the one who went to Newcastle was just like he had a little bit left in the tank.
He was good. He had but QPR Ferdinand,
like people don't know British football back then. You didn't get straight to the top club. Like you used to have to do your hard yards, and that was what he was. All those players.
Ian Wright did. Stuart Pearce
Andy Cole, all of them.
Yeah, Andy Cole.
They were straight fire for like bad clubs, essentially. Just banging it in every game.
Yeah. So I mean, we when Andy Cole came to Newcastle, I think we took him as an Arsenal reject. And he had that mad season with Peter Beardsley in League One, where Peter Beardsley set up 20 goals from him, but
that's
he banged
the what if,
43 goals.
I'd look to see what happens in his career.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. But anyway, so so they've got this new system anyway now where it's like when you talk to players, you can set your body language. So I'm really looking forward to playing with that. Oh no, it's insane because it used to be you have to like think about temperaments, personality types, and if you insult one player and he's well liked in the dressing room will turn. But now it's like you say, hands outstretched, come on, man. Like, or lean over and things like this. So they've got this new body language model that I think could be kind of interesting.
Obviously, Nicola and Iom's like, they're giving away all my bloody secrets.
Yeah, no. So anyway,
I've never hurt you. I care about you guys. Now sign the contract.
We're one big family. Now sign this NDA that says you'll never insult the family.
And I'm just going to bring in 3 more kids.
Yeah, for a 10-man childhood roster, whatever. Right, Jerky's Minion. Last question.
Imagine if that is actually how he ran his life and just adopted kids and was like, we're gonna have, we set the fucking Joker in Batman or whatever, like we're gonna have tryouts.
Yeah, exactly.
It will be my heir.
Our terminal 6 mates, TSM, the #1 NA team to speed run for flights home. I think they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now at this point, I think they actually are unquestionably.
I mean, it's impossible to go worse than losing all the games. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing in that question is, can you think of any other NA teams that have like bombed out of a fucking tournament in such a quick fashion across any esport? I mean, StarCraft 2.
Oh yeah, there was some players were shit in that game. Come on.
You used to have like these players that were like top seeded and then they're highly ranked, and they would just go with international tournament. Here's the Koreans, and they would just be straight back on a plane. Like they could have done a fucking a day tripper. some of that shit was mental. So, but yeah, TSM are definitely
That'd be on
worthy.
the joke, yeah.
Yeah, worthy of ridicule. Right, there it is, guys. That's the whole thing. All wrapped. Super long episode, just casual 3-hour podcast because we love you so much. I was thinking about doing a breakdown of the election later on today for those who are interested in that, but it's getting a bit late here now. It's 1 a.m. for me, so maybe not. Maybe we have to save that deep joy for tomorrow, and then we'll be into the bot major. We'll wait and see. You'll know. You follow me on Twitter. So all that remains to be said is a shout out to the sponsors. .com/RLS. Like I said, go follow their YouTube. It's fucking ridiculous how good some of their content is and how no one's following it. And this happens a lot. So go to CSGO on YouTube, follow them. Go to my YouTube as well, by the way, because a load of you unfollowed because I made fun of Joe Biden. So come on, we need to remedy this. Like, come on, guys.
We will punish him by not consuming his free content that we love.
Yeah, so
stop hurting me for that.
Come on, man, as our president, our new president.
Come on, man, with arms stretched out.
Yeah. Sniffing. Come on, man. Right, anyway, and obviously NordVPN. Get a VPN, guys. You're going to want to start protecting your shit, getting some new accounts, and insulating yourself for the next year's going to be fun. Yep. Time to hunker down, ladies and gentlemen. So go to nordvpn.com/RLS, get 70% off. Sick deal. And obviously our patrons. Our patrons brought the show back from the dead. It's been going now for 178 episodes or something. So in total with the original 40 we had from the Alpha Draft years. Right. So it's absolutely insane how much by the numbers there's been. So thanks to Jerky's Minion. Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer has turned up, because of course he has. Sean Gares. I don't like the word Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer being before Sean Gares, but whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't forget about the Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer. Sean Gares, one of the most wholesome and great guys you could ever know. Flacksmith, J-Dubs, Alice the Alchemist, Marcus Kiumpar, Flacksmith, Detlef Insomniac, and our $50 patrons. Guran, Lonnie, X-Defel, Fursock, Quasar Fox, Gaming Paul DK, Elon, Daniel Magnuson, Echo, Rez Chi, Miss Alcoholic, Cathal, Tobias Bernasconi, Watch Doge, Reykjavik on Steam, Carve, Smart as Superman, Benakagi, Sadsawar, and Chingu. Thanks to all of those guys. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode of By the Numbers sometime after the bot major, which starts on the 9th, sometime after Flashpoint. Don't know when that ends. But anyway, we love you all. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon.